Chapter 257. I've always believed in you. And this time will be the same. On the way home, Tongning suddenly thought of Feng Yu's daughter. She asked, "Why does Feng Yu have a daughter? He's already married?" Mo Ting wrapped his arm around her and replied calmly, "According to our information, he is not married. As for his daughter, I'm afraid only he knows. Are you still trying to get him and Hua Jingjing together?" Tongning shook her head. This time, she was simply worried about Feng Yu. Seeing her confused expression, Mo Ting gently pinched her neck. "It's fine, don't worry so much. Can I be more worried than you?" Ever since Mo Ting became her manager, everything about her had been under his control. Even small things like when she showered or when she went to sleep, Tongning asked Mo Ting in return. However, Tongning never felt annoyed. Mo Ting was such a dazzling person. Yet he was willing to be so considerate for her. What else could she ask for? Tomorrow night is Hai Rui's celebration dinner. Tomorrow afternoon, Long Jie will accompany you to get your hair done. "I can do it myself." "You must go," Mo Ting said meaningfully. Tongning couldn't dissuade him, so she nodded her head. "I'll listen to you. Who asked you to be my manager?" "You can't wear the dress that Long Jie chose. It's too casual. I will get Lu Che to deliver it to you tomorrow morning." Mo Ting casually looked at Long Jie with disdain. However, Long Jie did not feel angry at all. This meant that Mo Ting valued Tongning more than anything else. Because whether Tongning or Zhen Mani won or lost, it all depended on Mo Ting's attitude. Whoever this man declared to be the winner would be the winner. Late that night, two people called Hua Jingjing. The first one was Zhen Mani. "I heard you were injured. It's not serious, right? Who did you offend?" "Zhen Mani, aren't you tired of acting like this?" Hua Jingjing let out a gentle laugh as she sat up from the bed and violently coughed twice. The assistant heard this and hurriedly brought her a cushion. "It's just that you weren't ruthless enough. I'm still half dead. Since you've guessed it, I have nothing to say. I'm just teaching you a small lesson. Hua Jingjing, do you believe me? I have the ability to make you spend the rest of your life in violence." "Of course I do," Hua Jingjing replied confidently. However, there was not a single trace of fear in her voice. "But you've really gotten carried away. I can do whatever I want. Who can control me? Let me tell you. As long as I spread the news that Star King is interested in inviting me, Mo Ting can only panic. When you say this, do you feel confident?" Hua Jingjing laughed. "Just you wait and see. This celebration dinner will reveal Tongning's status. I can also see through you." After speaking, Hua Jingjing hung up the phone. There was nothing left to say to Zhen Mani. From the moment she joined Hai Rui, the artists were like a family. As long as they needed help, they would definitely help each other. But there were still people who were greedy. Next was Feng Yu. As soon as she saw this phone number, Hua Jingjing fell into a daze. Actually, after the past few days of gossip, she knew that Feng Yu had caused quite a bit of trouble. Since he already had a daughter, she didn't want to drag him down with her. So, Hua Jingjing did not take it. Feng Yu thought she had already gone to bed, so he sent her a message to check on her. "Are you okay?" As soon as Hua Jingjing saw these words, she let out a deep sigh and deleted the message without hesitation. Everything would pass. Everything would get better. She still wanted to go see the Frenchman beautifully. Not long after, it was 3 p.m. the next day. That night, the Fei Tian Award ceremony was to be held. After the ceremony, Hai Rui would be celebrating. This was originally a competition for acting skills, and was an important award ceremony. After all, the Fei Tian Awards was the highest goal an actor could achieve before they stepped onto the international stage. It was a very valuable award. So, the red carpet tonight was going to be extremely lively. As a model, she originally didn't have much to do with the celebration dinner. But she didn't want to miss out on Hai Rui's 20th anniversary. So, under Mo Ting's arrangements, she went to a styling store called Luminous. This styling store only catered to celebrities and had served many well-known figures. If it was a minor celebrity, they would have to make a phone call to make an appointment. In some cases, it was impossible to make an appointment. "Isn't it better to come earlier? Why did boss insist on us arriving at this time?" Long Jie complained as she looked at the crowded Luminous store. These people were all famous artists, but in order to compete with each other, they had no choice but to arrive early and queue up like normal people. Tongning, wait here. I'll go look for the best stylist. Tongning pulled out a limited edition gold card from her handbag and handed it to Long Jie. Use this. Long Jie received the card from Tongning and immediately revealed a love-struck expression. Did boss make this for you? I'm not sure, he gave it to me last night. Tongning shook her head as she sat on the sofa, indicating that she had no idea what the card did. The waiter noticed the card in Tongning's hand, so he approached her and said, Hello, Mississippi. You are holding a limited edition card from Stylist Chung. Please take a seat. I will immediately invite him out. It turned out the limited edition card could be used by different people. Tongning nodded her head and looked at the time. The celebration dinner would only start at 10 p.m., so it was still within the time limit. However, at this time the people around them began to point at Tongning. Isn't that Tongning? I've never seen her here before. Furthermore, she's holding a limited edition gold card. Chapter 258. After the waiter left, Long Jie approached Tongning and let out a laugh. Tongning, are you really going to fight with Jinmani for her? Since she can serve me first, why wouldn't I? I'm really in a rush. Tongning replied calmly without a single hint of her black-bellied aura. Long Jie pouted as she suddenly understood what her boss was trying to say. There was a reason why her boss asked Tongning to come at a time like this, and why he gave her a limited edition stylist card. As the old saying goes, this husband and wife are truly black-bellied. Wasn't it obvious they were here to humiliate Jinmani? This wife-doting boss was obviously giving Tongning a chance to vent her anger. Afterwards, the elegant waiter returned to Tongning and politely invited her into the VIP waiting room. At this time, Jinmani emerged from the waiting room, and the two women came face to face. Of course, although they had never met before, they were no longer strangers. Tongning was obviously taller than Jinmani, so Jinmani did not have an aura that could overwhelm her. However, even though the two women had never met before, their gazes were like daggers that slashed at each other like they wanted nothing more than to turn the other into a bloody mess. So it's you. As soon as the small-time celebrities heard Jinmani's voice, they immediately gathered around. Was there going to be a good show? Were the two about to have a showdown right now? Since you're a junior, then let me go first. Jinmani turned around to return to her seat, as if it was the right thing to do. She had always used the stylist, and had never heard of a VIP limited edition card. Just now, when the waiter explained the situation to her, she had never been so embarrassed. How dare she wait for someone else? It was all because she didn't follow the rules and always did things her own way. Everyone thought Tongning would definitely give way to Jinmani. After all, in terms of professionalism, Tongning was slightly inferior and her status in Hyrule was far from Jinmani's. But, to everyone's surprise, Tongning directly replied, Sorry, I'm in a rush. Everyone was in an uproar. How could Tongning remain so calm no matter what situation she was in? This was Jinmani they were talking about. Jinmani. Even in the modeling industry, not many people dared to act arrogantly in front of her. Yet Tongning dared to steal her stylist? Jinmani was also stunned. With her arms crossed, she turned around and glared at Tongning. The dominance and anger in her eyes caused her to do something shocking. She lifted her hand, ready to slap Tongning across the face. Unfortunately, Tongning grabbed onto her hand and threw a beautiful slap across the face. Everyone was dumbfounded by the slap. Jinmani tilted her head. His eyes widened in shock. Meanwhile, Tongning flicked her wrist, regretting she had used too much force. Oh God, Tongning hit Jinmani. Tongning actually dared to hit Jinmani. Jinmani refused to admit defeat as she threw another slap at Tongning. However, this time, Tongning grabbed onto Jinmani's hands, crossed them and pushed them away. Could it be that Senior's hobby is to throw slaps at people for no reason? Tongning. As soon as everyone heard Jinmani's name, they felt their teeth clench in anger. But Tongning did not show any signs of fear. Instead, her voice turned even colder. This slap is simply to tell you that Jingjing's injury will return to you sooner or later. Just because Mo Ting is your manager, you think you can act arrogantly? Tongning let out a gentle laugh as she raised her card and waved it around. Yes, do you think you have the right to do so? Hearing Tongning's relentless provocation, the surrounding guests were shocked. They all thought, based on Tongning's delicate appearance, she would definitely lose to the arrogant Junmani. After all, Junmani was a person that enjoyed excitement, and was also a fan of extreme sports when she was overseas. But Tongning's performance had completely shattered their expectations. Of course, they had no idea. While the great boss was Tongning's manager, he was also her personal trainer. So while training Tongning, he made sure to specifically target her strength. Last time, she had slapped someone across the face 4 times in a row. How painful was that? Junmani had been slapped, but there was nothing she could do. After being humiliated, all she could do was push the stylist aside and leave the VIP waiting room. Tongning already knew what Junmani was thinking. Of course, she wasn't going to let Junmani bully her. Since an opportunity had presented itself, she had to grab hold of it. Not to mention, this opportunity came from her own husband. Tongning turned around and noticed the crowd had yet to leave. She smiled and said to the group, I'm sure everyone is aware of Junmani's temper. If the embarrassing scene of her being slapped by me was to be uploaded online, I'm sure. How could we be so nosy? Even if we aren't afraid of Junmani, we are still afraid of Hai Rui. Above all, President Mo is your manager. The small-time celebrities expressed that they were simply here to watch the show and were impressed by her courage. Tongning smiled at everyone, and did not say another word. Afterwards, the stylist closed the door behind her. However, outside, the small-time celebrities were in an uproar. Did you guys notice the way Tongning looked at us at the end? Why did I feel like she was a little cool? Didn't you guys hear what Tongning said? Tongning mentioned Hu Jingjing's injury. I previously heard rumors that Hu Jingjing had been beaten up for no reason. From the looks of it, it was Junmani's doing. No wonder Tongning wanted to teach Junmani a lesson. I'm actually quite happy to have a friend like Tongning. Behind the door, Long Jie was sitting to one side laughing happily. Thinking about Junmani's embarrassed expression a moment ago, she felt her mood lighten up. Tongning looked at Long Jie as she got her makeup done. Are you done laughing? Come over and help me. Tongning, tonight's banquet will definitely be even more exciting. Tongning did not say a word. She lowered her head calmly. Aren't you worried about getting hit? Are you kidding me? I also have a boyfriend. Long Jie lifted up her phone and looked at Lu Che's photo with a sweet smile. So because of the nourishment of love, you've gained weight? Long Jie, how have I gained weight? Long Jie's face turned red, unwilling to admit it. In reality, ever since Lu Che discovered she liked to eat, he had been taking her everywhere to look for delicious food. It seemed he was completely unaware of her worries. If you're like this, do you still want to eat nutritious meals with me? There aren't many people in this world that have such abnormal self-control, Long Jie retorted. Let's not continue on this topic. A moment ago, Lu Che gave me a phone call to say that boss has placed tonight's dress here. You will need to try it on in a moment. Okay, Tongning nodded. I really want to see you wear boss's dress and defeat Junmani in a second. Ah, I'm so looking forward to tonight's banquet. My heart can't take it anymore. Chapter 259. Long Jie was the first person to receive Tongning's dress. As soon as she opened the box and saw the finished product, she was so shocked that her mouth could be stuffed with a duck egg. Not only that, she immediately went online to look up the price of the dress. Seeing the estimated price was marked with a row of zeros, she was so shocked that she fell to the ground. Tongning. This is Catherine Walker's premium collection. There is only one in the entire world, and it is a brand used by the British royal family. Long Jie carefully put down the box. Even a single thread on the dress was worth years of a normal person's income. Most importantly, there was a card inside the box. For my beloved wife. This. Boss bought it. Long Jie felt like she was about to faint. Boss doted on his wife to the point of squandering. Long Jie was deeply worried for Hai Rui's future. There was a reason why Long Jie was so exaggerated. Don't be fooled by the fact that when celebrities walk the red carpet, They all wore premium custom-made gowns from luxury brands. In reality, most of these gowns were sponsored by the brands they represented. Even a rich celebrity that appeared on the Forbes list every year wouldn't necessarily be able to afford a premium custom-made gown from a luxury brand. There were billions of people in the world, but only a few thousand people could afford to wear premium custom-made clothing. This was why Longjie was so shocked. Tongning stood up from her makeup table and walked over to Longjie. She then pulled out the dress from the box. It was a half-sleeve dress made from a semi-transparent material. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The main point was the design on the body of the dress. It was a light blue and purple starry sky. As for the stars on the body of the dress, they were actually white diamonds that emitted a bright glow. Oh God, it's so beautiful. Oh my God. Longjie covered her mouth in surprise. Tongning, hurry and put it on. Hurry. Go try it on. Wearing such a beautiful dress makes me feel guilty, Tongning said as she rubbed the dress against her body. Afterwards, she discovered there was another set of clothes inside the box. Tongning was a little confused, so she gave Emoting a phone call. Why? Are there two sets? Emoting had just finished an important meeting. Thinking about the surprised expression on Tongning's face when she saw the gown, he couldn't help but feel happy. However, there was a reason why he had prepared two gowns. So he explained. Why don't you wear the business suit for now? Wifey, I will have to trouble you to be my manager and assistant tonight. Emoting's attitude was firm. It was true that he was the CEO of Hairue, but it didn't mean that he was on Junmani's side. He had asked Tongning to be his manager, and the privilege of a manager was, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. I'll listen to you, just like how you listened to me. What about the other dress? When do you want me to wear it? It's a secret for now. Tongning smiled. She had a feeling Emoting had other surprises up his sleeves. So she didn't probe any further. She simply retrieved the professional suit from the box and handed it to Longjie to iron. How did this happen? Are you going to wear this? Longjie asked in surprise. What was she trying to do instead of wearing a custom-made gown? The suit in Longjie's hands was a white shirt and a pink A-line skirt. It was a professional suit. Although it was still Catherine Walker's clothes, it looked a lot more normal. Hurry and go. Tongning was actually looking forward to being Emoting's manager. In other words, she wanted to do Luche's job. But did Luche dare to order Emoting around? Did she dare? Emoting's words echoed in her mind. He actually rarely called her that. Even in bed, he would never call her by those embarrassing nicknames. But hearing it today, she felt it was very natural and comfortable. Longjie had no idea what Tongning was planning. All she knew was, if she was to appear like this, Junmani would laugh at her. What was she thinking? Was boss planning to sacrifice Tongning? Just as Longjie was in a state of confusion, Luche gave her a phone call. Are you free tonight? Today is such an important day. What do you think? Aren't you going to attend Hairue's celebration dinner with boss? Plus, I need to keep Tongning company. The president has an assistant tonight, so you don't need to follow the madam. Come out and meet my parents. Longjie. 2 days ago, I told them about our situation, so they immediately flew over from City A. Longjie suddenly panicked. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? How am I supposed to meet them in my current state? Don't worry, it's just a meeting. Longjie suddenly hung up Luche's phone. She felt a little angry. Meeting his parents wasn't a small matter, especially since they had just gotten together. This made her think that Luche had been forced to get married by his family. Since he felt she was suitable, he agreed to be with her. What's wrong? Tongning asked as she noticed the strange expression on Longjie's face. Luche wants me to meet his parents. Why doesn't he give me more time? You and boss have been married for so long, and he hasn't forced you to meet his parents. He has given you enough respect. I am simply a little anxious. What do you plan to do then? I don't want to meet them yet, Longjie replied straightforwardly. Tongning, what I fear the most is that after our relationship has passed its passionate phase, we will face all sorts of problems. But we haven't even passed our passionate phase yet. Isn't the order reversed? In that case, You should clarify things with Lu Che. Long Jia thought for a moment and pulled out her phone to give Lu Che a phone call. Chapter 260. Zhen Mani had been slapped by Tang Ning. From the time she was born until now, she had never endured such humiliation. So as soon as she returned to the van, she slapped Charlene across the face twice. However, the hatred in her heart couldn't be dispelled. Charlene's face quickly swelled up. As a person with dignity, to be hit and scolded by Zhen Mani at the slightest provocation, the hatred in her heart had already seeped into her blood and quickly spread throughout her body. Immediately give Mo Ting a phone call. Otherwise, I will never be able to take this lying down. Why would President Mo pick up a phone call from someone like me? Charlene asked as she swallowed her anger. Zhen Mani thought about it for a moment and realized Mo Ting wasn't someone that just anyone could talk to. So she personally made a phone call to the CEO's office. President, Zhen Mani is on the line. Do you want to pick up? Lu Che asked. I think it's because of the slap you received from the madam. After hearing Lu Che's words, Mo Ting replied without lifting his head, pick her up. On the other end of the phone, Zhen Mani was a little overwhelmed. So she subconsciously became more polite. President Mo. What is it? Mo Ting's voice was extremely cold. Today at Luminous, Tang Ning hit me. Since you are her manager, I had no choice but to contact you. Over a small matter like this? Mo Ting asked. Be magnanimous and learn from Hua Jingjing. Hearing these serious words, Lu Che couldn't help but let out a laugh. He thought to himself, Zhen Mani, who are you complaining to? At the mention of Hua Jingjing, Zhen Mani's face turned red. At the same time, she felt a little guilty. Mo Ting's words were obviously implying that Tang Ning had only slapped her once, yet she had left her half dead. Even though Hua Jingjing hadn't gotten even with you, how could you have the nerve to call me and complain about this slap? Zhen Mani was so angry that she lifted her phone and threw it at Charlene. Let's go to the banquet. Charlene held back her tears as she followed behind Zhen Mani in humiliation. She even thought to herself, how great would it be if Tang Ning could embarrass this woman a few more times? Only then would he feel happy in his heart. The Grand Fei Tian Awards ceremony had already begun in front of everyone. In the live broadcast channel, the award ceremony was unveiling the winners of each award. At this moment, Dani was at Hua Jingjing's apartment. Just before she left for the banquet, she received a phone call from Mo Ting informing her that he would be attending the Fei Tian Awards ceremony as a guest. He told her to wait for a while. He would pick her up later to attend Hai Rui's celebration dinner. I heard about what happened at Luminous today. It's spreading like wildfire. Zhen Mani has a face that needs to be taught a lesson, Tang Ning said calmly as she sat by Hua Jingjing's bedside. Plus, she started the fight. What is this? Long Jia smiled mysteriously as she stood behind the two. Lu Che just told me that Zhen Mani even called boss to complain. Guess what the president said? Long Jia cleared her throat, straightened her back and mimicked Mo Ting. Just because of a small thing like this? Be magnanimous and learn from Hua Jingjing. Tang Ning shook her head helplessly, but Hua Jingjing smiled, even though her smile made her wounds hurt. It's quite similar, mainly because the lines are awesome. However, those people outside are really too much. Everyone is trying to predict who will be the winner between you and Zhen Mani tonight. They've even brought out their sexy hips and long legs to talk about. Moreover, are these people blind? He actually said Zhen Mani has a high chance of winning because boss is an ambitious businessman. He wouldn't hurt Hai Rui's foundation just for a little bit of money. Bullshit. That's because boss didn't meet our Tang Ning before. That's why he was so cold-blooded. That's not right. Boss is also cold-blooded and heartless towards others. He's only normal towards Tang Ning. After hearing Long Jia's words, Hua Jingjing turned to look at Tang Ning. I have a feeling President Mo is going to cause quite a commotion tonight. I still haven't recovered from the shock of him announcing that he will be my manager. Tang Ning sighed helplessly. Don't take it for granted. Hua Jingjing pointed to Mo Ting on stage with her chin. Have you noticed? Even when a female celebrity takes a photo with your husband, he won't put his arm around their shoulders or waist. In fact, when he sees someone sticking close to him, He will even take a step to the side. Of course, Tongning noticed. Hayes, I must have been thinking too much. Now that I think about it, Tongning, you are the one who hasn't done enough for President Mo. Tongning nodded her head. I really haven't done anything for him. But, you've finally seen how well he treats me. The couple chatted for a while. Not long after, Tongning received a phone call from Mo Ting. Tongning glanced at Hu Jingjing. Hu Jingjing smiled. Hurry up and go. Don't let me down. Long Jie will stay behind to keep you company. After speaking, Tongning stood up and left Hu Jingjing's apartment. Downstairs, she spotted Mo Ting's sports car. In the past, whenever Mo Ting went out, he always kept a low profile and never drove an overly eye-catching limited edition sports car. But ever since he announced that he would be her manager, he no longer hid it. Actually, she was aware that Mo Ting had plenty of sports cars in the garage. Seeing Tongning arrive downstairs, Mo Ting pushed open the car door and walked around the front of the car to open it for her. Today, Mo Ting was dressed in a burgundy lapel handmade suit with a black vest underneath. His entire body exuded an aura of nobility. However, when it came to the color, Tongning noticed that her business suit was also pink. This man he really was. Are you going to wear a wedding ring today, or should I wear a wedding ring? Mo Ting asked on the way. Tongning didn't quite understand what he meant. What I mean is, I want to wear a wedding ring today. Tongning looked at the wedding ring between his fingers and smiled. She then removed the ring in her hand. But everyone knows I have this ring. If you wear it too. If you don't look at the inner ring, you won't be able to tell that we are wearing wedding rings. Then, what's there for me to remove? Tongning removed half of the ring and put it back on. Mo Ting couldn't help but chuckle. At a red light, he hooked his arm around Tongning's neck and kissed her. When the light turned green, he released her. I'm not sure why, but standing on stage today, I suddenly thought, if you were to enter the film and television industry, I wonder what it would be like. My singing isn't bad either. Do you want to release an album for me? Tongning couldn't help but ask. Life is long, there are bound to be things to try. Tongning smiled and did not say another word. Film and television? Maybe. The awards ceremony has already ended, yet you specifically came to pick me up. Doesn't that mean the celebration dinner has already started? Tongning suddenly remembered. Yes, but I am the CEO. Do I have to be punctual? Chapter 261. Hai Rui's celebration dinner was filled with glamorous lights and superstars. Under the luxurious crystal chandeliers, the celebrities chatted happily as they held their wine glasses to the sound of elegant music. Waiters shuttled back and forth with trays in their hands. Every now and then, they would bump into male and female celebrities exchanging glances with each other, and occasionally hear gossip about other agencies. This was all because the CEO of Hai Rui, Mo Ting, had yet to appear at the celebration dinner. Although Hai Rui had always been united, they couldn't help but discuss Zhen Mani's matter. As long as they didn't bring her out of the agency, everything was fine. Tonight, even the Best Actor and Best Actress awards are not as glorious as Zhen Mani and Tongning. Hey, whose side are you on? In comparison, I'm on Tongning's side, two female celebrities said. It's obvious that Zhen Mani's heart no longer belongs to Hai Rui. Since she no longer belongs to Hai Rui, she is no longer our friend. So no matter what, I will stand on Tongning's side. Plus, haven't you noticed that Hu Jingjing isn't here today? The woman looked around and nodded her head. Yes, I've noticed. What's going on? She was beaten up by Zhen Mani. I heard she can't even get out of bed. She's gone too far. Meanwhile, the other male celebrities were also discussing. I have a question for you guys. Are you going to choose a sexy bottom or a pair of long legs? One is hot and sexy, the other is quiet and cold. I don't think either one is a bad choice. Do you think you have the right to choose a pair of long legs? From a man's point of view, President Mo will definitely choose Zhen Mani. After all, he needs to maintain the internal stability of Hai Rui. I don't think so. Is President Mo the type of person to be threatened? Everyone had their own opinions. It seemed everyone had their own opinions. Of course, their discussions were focused on who Mo Ting would choose. They would never personally attack someone from the agency. Only Jean Manny would do something like this. Look, it looks like Jean Manny has arrived. A moment later, Jean Manny appeared wearing a deep V-neck black dress that tightly wrapped around her beautiful figure. She walked like a supermodel and purposely wore stilettos as she dragged her dress along as she entered Hai Rue's ballroom. From a single glance, Jean Manny's figure was indeed the pinnacle. She was good at using her body to her advantage and accentuate the beauty of her chest and bottom. As soon as they saw Jean Manny, quite a few male celebrities subconsciously reacted as they grabbed a glass of iced wine to extinguish the flames burning in their bodies. Jean Manny was satisfied with the crowd's reaction. In her eyes, she was the king of the runway, and everyone had to fall head over heels for her. And from the way these men looked at her, she could tell that she had done it. She was still so confident and charming. But, and the way the men looked at her, she and Jean Manny knew she had already done. And was and Ming. Mo and Jean and would be. Addition, Jean Manny's beauty was ostentatious. In fact, because of her strong personality, she carried a sense of aggressiveness and wildness. Although she was beautiful, she made it hard for people to approach her. Hey, Jean Manny is already here. I'm so envious of her breasts and butt. Comparisons are always odious. With Jean Manny's current appearance, I'm sure no matter what Tongning wears, nothing can compare to her beauty. That's hard to say. After all, the CEO is the manager. You even said that if the CEO attended tonight as the CEO of Hai Rue, Tongning would have nothing to do with it. That means the CEO is still on Jean Manny's side. The artists present quickly gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to discuss the hot topic of the day. Especially after Jean Manny's appearance, they felt like they wanted Tongning to attend, but were afraid of her at the same time. Their palms were sweating from nervousness. Are you coming or not? How would I know? The banquet was still going on, and the performing guests also went on stage one after another to perform. They were either the most popular songs or popular street dances, and there were even popular young male actors. As long as they stood on the stage, even if they did nothing, they could still let their senior brothers and sisters see a picture of a handsome man in its original form. Tongning must be too scared to show herself. Jean Manny stood in the middle of the crowd with a glass of red wine in her hand. Her voice was a little loud, like she wasn't afraid of being heard. The people around her were stunned. No matter how beautiful Jean Manny was, they didn't want to take a second look at her. Not long after, a commotion broke out at the entrance of the banquet hall. It didn't take long before Mo Ting appeared in front of everyone's eyes. From the way Mo Ting was dressed, it was obvious he was attending as the CEO of Hai Rue. A portion of the people were a little disappointed. They thought there would be some suspense. Meanwhile, Jean Manny's lips curved upwards. She knew she wouldn't lose. Jean Manny is going to be pleased with herself this time. Tongning didn't even attend. The others once again began to discuss amongst themselves. I know, right? Look at Jean Manny's face. Wait, the CEO even brought a woman with him. Isn't that Tongning? Where? The one following behind the CEO in business attire. Not only these two, everyone else also noticed Tongning wasn't dressed in a glamorous gown, nor did she make a grand entrance. Instead, she was dressed in business attire as she followed beside Mo Ting, who was considered to have one. Mo Ting was attending as the CEO of Hai Rue, but he also brought Tongning with him. As soon as Jean Manny saw this, her smile froze on her face as she felt a little upset. Mo Ting's actions seemed to be telling her that Tongning didn't come to Hai Rue because of him. How could she compete just because he said so? It was all up to Tongning to cooperate. A moment later, the award-winning actor approached Mo Ting with a glass of wine in his hand and thanked him. But, just as he was about to give him a toast, Mo Ting turned to look at the woman behind him questioningly. It was like he was asking if he could have a drink. Tongning froze for a moment before she understood what Mo Ting meant, and nodded her head. Seeing this, the actor couldn't help but laugh. President Mo, are you asking for junior sister's opinion? Does she need to control how she drinks? Previously, when I was her manager, she complained that I was controlling her too much. So today she suggested she be my manager instead. Mo Ting explained as he raised his glass and clinked glasses with the man. I never thought junior sister had the potential to be a manager. The man couldn't help but laugh. However, this is the first time I've seen President Mo being controlled. It's quite refreshing. After speaking, the actor turned his gaze to Tongning. I really need to thank junior sister for being able to see President Mo like this. Chapter 262. Tongning also raised her glass in a toast. This was the youngest best actor in history. He actually called her junior sister. If his fangirls were to find out, wouldn't they go crazy with jealousy? The young best actor wearing a white tuxedo looked at the inseparable couple sitting opposite him and saw the rings on their fingers. Although he was aware of their relationship, he still couldn't help but sigh. President Mo sure is lucky. Tongning understood the deeper meaning behind his words. Her eyes darkened, but the man simply smiled and raised another glass to Tongning. Junior sister, if you need any help in the future, feel free to let me know. Especially if you want to enter the film and television industry. Thank you, senior brother. When such a scene fell into everyone's eyes, they all felt shocked. From the looks of it, Zhen Mani had won. After all, it was the CEO of Hai Rui. But Mo Ting brought Tongning along with him. Not only did he introduce her to famous artists and help her open up her social circle, he also made an extremely affectionate gesture in front of everyone. Hey, did you guys see the rings on their fingers? The artists started gossiping again. But based on the design, it doesn't look like a couple's. Plus, I've seen Tongning's interview with Feng Kai. She likes LM's rings, so it's not strange for her to wear one. It's not strange for Tongning to wear one. But, when have you ever seen the president wear one? Could it be that the president bought it because Tongning was wearing it? If that's the case, then it's too sweet. Have you noticed? Tongning doesn't need to wear a gown. As long as she's by the president's side, she's already dazzling enough. Of course, no matter who it is, if they receive the president's constant attention, they would also be dazzling. From the moment that Mo Ting appeared with Tongning, Zhen Mani had already been overshadowed by him. No matter how powerful she was, no matter how eye-catching she could never be as eye-catching as Mo Ting and Tongning combined. In everyone's eyes, Tongning was a legend. What others took years or even decades to achieve, she did it in 3 to 4 months. She had gone from being an outdated top model to returning to her rightful position. No, she was still one step away. But, not just one step. Even if there were many more steps, she wouldn't have to worry. Because the big boss of the entertainment industry, Mo Ting, had actually announced that he would be her exclusive manager. Exclusive? Yet, no one thought she was relying on luck. Because every step she took caused a sensation and attracted everyone's attention. She fought her way to where she was today. So it wasn't strange that she attracted Mo Ting's attention. But the reality was Mo Ting had been a participant from day one. The actress also approached Mo Ting. After a simple greeting, the actress smiled at Tongning. Junior sister, I really want to raise a toast to you. Actually, on the way here with Mo Ting, Tongning had already drunk quite a lot. Her usual alcohol tolerance was only 1 glass, but today, she had exceeded her usual limit. Translator, Mo editor, Mo editor. Mo to Mo boss I ning Mo. Mo I to say Xing junior brother. The actress smiled as she clinked glasses with Mo Ting. Although she felt it was a shame that a man like Tongning had been abducted, she couldn't bring herself to hate Tongning. After all, Tongning had worked hard. So in their hearts, they truly treated Tongning as their junior sister. Although she wasn't young, in the entertainment industry, Tongning was still considered young. They had experienced more darkness and seen more filth. The only reason they had gotten to where they were today was because they had broken their teeth countless times. Who said I can't do it? Perhaps it was because she had drunk a little. Tongning naturally hooked her arms around Mo Ting's arm like there was no one else around. Mo Ting did not struggle as he allowed her to hold onto his arm. He then led her to one side to get some rest. Many people saw this scene, and screams rose and fell one after another. This meant, the two were already in a semi-public relationship, they simply hadn't admitted it yet. Of course, everyone had reason to believe that Mo Ting was serious. He was different from others. Before Tongning, He had never been involved in any scandals. Tongning was the first that everyone envied. Hey, did you guys see the expression on Jinmani's face? You don't say. When she first arrived, I really thought she was going to win. To be honest, everyone in Hai Rui supports each other. If Jinmani continues to stay, I will feel uncomfortable. I feel like I will be stabbed in the back. Just think about what happened to Jingjing. That's right. In our family, you can be unfriendly, but you can never hurt others. Jinmani heard everyone's discussions, the harsh ridicule and heartless laughter. It seemed it was all because of her. Over the years, she had done so much for Hai Rui. She had suppressed Star King for so many years. But in the end, just because of Tongning, everyone had betrayed her. Thinking of this, Jinmani suddenly gathered her courage as she walked past everyone and arrived in front of Mo Ting and Tongning. President Mo, I Jinmani, have been with Hai Rui for so many years. I don't think I've done anything wrong, but I feel the Hai Rui of today is no longer the Hai Rui of the past. I don't understand. Hai Rui has always relied on its capabilities. But Jinmani pointed to Tongning and questioned. What right does she have to join Hai Rui? I'm sure this is a question that bothers all of us in Hai Rui. After hearing this, Mo Ting looked past Jinmani and at the others. He realized everyone was shrugging their shoulders innocently. They all expressed that they were not included in the list of people in Hai Rui. Mo Ting leaned back on the sofa. His eyes were sharp, filled with ridicule and a hint of disdain. I'm glad you came to look for me. This means you feel that Tongning is a threat to your position. Aren't you the one being biased? We are both artists of Hai Rui. Why should you be her personal manager? You've always looked down on other artists. Why are you treating Tongning so differently? If one were to ask how the others felt at this moment, the answer would definitely be, Jinmani, you sure have guts. The other feeling was that they were so jealous that their teeth were going to fall off. Do I need to tell you who I'm going to be? Don't you think it's hard to convince the public? Hard to convince the public? Mo Ting directly asked the people behind Jinmani. However, they all shook their heads. President Mo, this is definitely not true. Everyone replied. Mo Ting, you are simply a hypocrite. You say you can't stand others playing tricks, but you are actually the one playing the most tricks. Jinmani, someone tried to stop her. Did she have a brain? Let her speak. Mo Ting coldly waved his hand to stop the crowd. Chapter 263. I've done so much for Hai Rui and helped you suppress Star King for so many years. Even if I haven't done anything meritorious, I should at least be thankful for my hard work. But I've realized, my status in Hai Rui is worse than a newcomer. Is this how Hai Rui does things? Before Tongning arrived, Hai Rui has always been fair and just. Mo Ting, have you been possessed? Jinmani seemed to have found an outlet to vent as she poured out all the frustrations in her heart. Everyone's expressions turned ugly because they noticed that Mo Ting's seemingly indifferent attitude could no longer conceal the evil aura he was emitting. He was like an emperor from ancient times whose authority had been challenged. Mo Ting did not move an inch. Just as he was about to speak, Tongning reached out her hand and stopped him. She's just a woman, there's no need to be angry. I am your manager today, let me handle this. Mo Ting looked at Tongning with a dark expression. But within his sharp gaze there was a sense of trust. Under this situation, Tongning had long since awoken from her stupor. It was likely she had overheard someone insulting Mo Ting. She stood up beside Mo Ting. Even though she wasn't wearing a pair of high heels, her aura completely suppressed Jinmani, forcing her to take a few steps back. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to slap me in the face again? Without Hai Rui, would you be where you are today? Tongning asked coldly. I also helped Hai Rui. You helped Hai Rui? Tongning laughed before she continued. Don't you think too highly of yourself? Everyone here has relied on Hai Rui to get to where they are today. Did you think that without Hai Rui as your background, people would care about you? You suppress Star King, which means you still have value. But Hai Rui can have a second Jinmani, a third Jinmani and a fourth Jinmani. There are plenty of people lining up to enter Hai Rui. Did you think it's easy to train an international supermodel? Zhen Mani asked in an imposing manner. It's not easy. But Hai Rui has a best actor from Fei Tian, a best actress from Berlin, a Hollywood martial artist, a popular dance queen in Asia, and a singing duo that breaks world records every year. You even have a film studio and a production company. Did Hai Rui rely on you to achieve success? Fuck. Tang Ning questioned Zhen Mani in a domineering manner. Not only did her words belittle Zhen Mani, they also elevated all the superstars present. Everyone rubbed their chins and nodded. They realized that although Tang Ning looked weak, when she spoke and acted, she could be considered a heroine. Zhen Mani was at a loss for words. All she could do was stare with her eyes wide open, speechless. After quite some time, she finally laughed. So you're aware that there are so many superstars out there. Why would he take a liking to you and become your manager? Right here in front of everyone. Mo Ting said in a low voice, I have faith in you. In that case, what do I need to do? Mo Ting looked at Zhen Mani and then back at Tang Ning before replying, Go get changed. That'll be enough. Oh God, this is going to be interesting. President Mo shouldn't have hidden Tang Ning from the start. He should have let Tang Ning attend as a model. This is going to be interesting. Zhen Mani's strengths are her breasts and butt, while Tang Ning's strengths are her long legs. I wonder what kind of sparks will fly when these two compete. Why do I feel like President Mo is doing this on purpose? Isn't he afraid that Tang Ning will lose? To be honest, according to Tang Ning's professional standards, she is not any worse than Zhen Mani. Hearing Mo Ting's suggestion, the artists behind him were extremely excited as they began to discuss excitedly. Of course, Tang Ning had already promised that she would do her best. So under everyone's gaze, Tang Ning stood up with her head held high and said domineeringly to Zhen Mani, Just you wait. Chapter 264. When it came to other things, Zhen Mani may not have confidence, but when it came to her figure, she had always been proud of it. She was ranked in the top 3 of the world's top 10 breasts. She was ranked in the top 3 of the world's top 10 breasts. On the runway, this was where she was most confident. She had never lost before. She didn't believe that Tang Ning had any chance of beating her, even if she had Mo Ting's support. Zhen Mani still hadn't recovered from Mo Ting's words. She didn't seem to understand what it meant to be frozen. All she wanted to do right now was to win against Tang Ning. She simply wanted to win. The other artists were all waiting for a good show to begin. Hai Rui had never experienced an internal conflict like this before. So, it was rare to see an internal conflict like this. So surprisingly, they were all looking forward to it. Zhen Mani had broken Hai Rui's precedent by provoking Mo Ting in front of everyone. So her ending was no surprise. She was frozen. But she remained calm and composed. It seemed she had no idea what kind of situation she was in. It seemed, even without Hai Rui, she still had Star King. Star King could still give her a path of glory. While waiting for Tang Ning, Mo Ting stood up and continued to discuss with Hai Rui's producers. He also discussed songs with the musicians and scripts with the actors. He didn't seem worried at all that Tang Ning would embarrass him and slap his face. Some of the actors were a little worried. After all, after so many years, Zhen Mani was the only person that had truly fallen out with Hai Rui. Plus, she had quite a bit of influence. President Mo, will Zhen Mani expose Hai Rui to the public? Hearing this, Mo Ting smiled and replied, In that case, she will need to prepare $200 million first. $100 million to compensate Hai Rui and $100 million to compensate the artists that she slandered. After that, we will simply do our PR. It shouldn't affect much. In other words, unless Zhen Mani was crazy, she wouldn't do something like giving money to others. $100 million. She would be able to live the rest of her life comfortably even if she stopped being an artist. This was also the reason why Hai Rui had never experienced an internal betrayal. It was because of the high compensation fees. At this moment, Zhen Mani stood alone in the crowd. No one was willing to speak to her. Zhen Mani sneered. It was indeed human nature to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Just wait and see. When Tang Ning appears, It will be the same as slapping all of you in the face. At the same time, the public was also paying attention to the two women on the same stage. But as this was a high-rue gathering, they did not invite the media. So, even though the public were interested in the battle between Tongning and Zhenmani, there were even paparazzi that disguised themselves as high-rue staff with hidden cameras. However, they were all chased away by the security guards. This was high-rue, not some other place. No matter how good your disguise was, it was impossible to escape the eyes of professional bodyguards. It was a massacre on the internet. Tongning had even more fans. After all, she was popular at the moment, but her fighting ability was not high. Although Zhenmani didn't have many fans, she had a deep understanding of the modeling industry. So when it came to arguing, she could easily take on 3 people at once. In the end, there was no suspense. It was just a lose-lose situation. In my opinion, Zhenmani's stage presence is very domineering. Tongning is just a little bit lacking. The person above is crazy. If the typhoon is just for looking domineering, then what's the point of acting? No matter what, Tongning will never win. Look at the forums, your Tongning has already been blackened. Yet, she is still trying to argue with me. Hurry up and lick her boots. Whether Tongning wins or not, it doesn't change the fact that the CEO of high-rue is her manager. Of course, if Zhenmani loses, it will be a little embarrassing. I support Zhenmani. I support Tongning. The discussions from the public gradually became more intense. Meanwhile, inside high-rue's banquet hall, everyone was waiting with their necks stretched out. Zhenmani looked at the empty entrance as the corners of her lips slowly curved upwards. Could it be that Tongning was going to run away this time? However, just as everyone was discussing why Tongning had not appeared yet, suddenly, a scream was heard. Not long after, Tongning stepped onto the red carpet wearing the translucent starry sky gown. Her hair was tied up in a bun, and her face was covered with light makeup. Unlike Zhenmani's heavy makeup, Tongning simply had a little bit of lipstick on. But the dress she was wearing, it was truly a heaven-shaking sight. Starry sky. There was no night scene more beautiful than this. As Tongning held onto the hem of her gown, the diamonds on her body sparkled like stars. It was an eye-opener and breathtaking sight. As soon as Tongning stepped onto the stage, Zhenmani looked extremely vulgar. In fact, she looked extremely vulgar. She looked like a prostitute standing on the side of the street trying to seduce a man. But the most important thing wasn't this, it was Tongning's breasts. Under the translucent veil, they appeared full and alluring. Then, they looked at Zhenmani and noticed her breasts were slightly sagging. Tongning also had beautiful breasts. It was just that people were more familiar with her legs. Breasts could be enlarged and hips could be trained, but long legs were something that one was born with. There was no way to compare. This was the conclusion that the audience came to after seeing Tongning. Oh God. Tongning's figure is way too good. Then, look at Zhenmani. Her face is frozen. In fact, I can guarantee that Tongning will be more successful than Zhenmani in the future. Look at this dress. If Zhenmani were to wear it, what do you think would happen? I can imagine it. How could she have such long legs? They wouldn't be able to hold up the dress. Then what about the dress that Tongning is wearing on Zhenmani? Wouldn't you feel an indescribable sense of handsomeness? Everyone around nodded their heads in agreement. Even Zhenmani lost her confidence when she saw Tongning like this. As a model, she understood the concept of taste all too well. If you looked at one person's eyes, it might be prejudice. But if you looked at a group of people, it would be the truth. Everyone's gaze was focused on Tongning. They were all in shock. Not long after, Tongning approached Mo Ting and asked, "What do you think?" Oh God. I finally remember the brand of the dress that Tongning is wearing. It's from Catherine Walker's premium collection. It's almost worth 8 figures, and it's a brand used by the British royal family. But when it's on her body, it looks really beautiful. If she was on the runway right now, I think I would be unable to control my emotions when I see this dress. Even though, I don't think I can afford it. Plus, Tongning is really good at making people fall in love with both the dress and the person. Unlike Zhenmani, all we see is her walking around the stage naked. She only shows herself and has no idea what it means to show off clothes. Chapter 265. Where did she go wrong? Junmani couldn't help but ask herself. She had walked the runway big and small and experienced countless battles. Why did she feel inferior when it came to Tongning? Junmani looked at Tongning from head to toe, and realized there was no one more perfect than her legs. Those that regularly exercised would know that a person with perfect legs would also have a good butt. So everything that she was proud of Tongning actually had. But everything that Tongning had, she would never be able to obtain in this lifetime. Under the luxurious lights, everyone's eyes were focused on Tongning. Under the light, Junmani looked like she couldn't take it anymore as she fell to the ground. However, no one reached out to help her up. Why did she do this? She was asking to be humiliated. Junmani is a proud and conceited person. She always thought that Tongning would lose to her. So it's not surprising that she ended up like this. Reality has proven that Tongning is more suited for the runway than Junmani. I've never seen a piece of clothing that Tongning can't handle. This is what you call a natural hanger. At this moment, Junmani could no longer hear anything. If there was no comparison, there would be no harm. On the international runway, she was indeed dazzling. But that was because the clothes were designed by the designer. In reality, there were many styles that she couldn't handle. But Tongning was versatile. It was like she could communicate with the clothes and quickly knew what she wanted to express. Most importantly, Tongning also had everything that Junmani was proud of. She simply kept a low profile. Some of the celebrities even pulled out their phones and took photos of the two. One was vulgar, the other was breathtaking. After hearing Tongning's question, Emoting replied, "I'm a little regretful that I bought this dress. Right now, all I want to do is take off my jacket and wrap it around you." Tongning's face couldn't help but turn red. Afterwards, Emoting let go of Tongning's arm and said to the security guard, "Escort Miss Shin out." "No need, I can walk on my own." Junmani, who was lying on the floor, stood up awkwardly. With one last trace of stubbornness, she stood up and left Hairue's ballroom. "I will remember the humiliation I suffered today." Junmani is a sore loser. He probably never thought that he would be defeated, so he received a critical hit. After Junmani left, everyone felt the atmosphere was no longer stifling. In fact, a few people even approached Tongning to strike up a conversation. But just as Tongning was about to respond, Emoting removed his jacket and placed it over her body, wrapping her up. When everyone saw the scene before them, could it be? The almighty CEO of Hairue was probably jealous because he thought Tongning's outfit was too revealing and didn't want others to see it. If he couldn't even endure this level of pain, then what if Tongning had a lingerie show in the future? "Hey!" Tongning turned around and protested. "You can't cheat like that." Emoting stood beside Tongning. Faced with Tongning's predicament, he only had one response. "Since you've returned to the role of model Tongning, then I am naturally your manager. You will do whatever your manager tells you to do." The artist beside him couldn't help but laugh. It seemed, this was the dress that Emoting regretted buying the most. The dinner continued, but Emoting put down his wine glass and said to Tongning, "Come to the waiting room." After speaking, he told the people beside him that he needed to make a phone call. Not long after, Tongning used the excuse of going to the bathroom and headed straight to the waiting room. However, just as she pushed open the door, she was pushed against the wall by a strong force. Not long after, Emoting began kissing her passionately. It was not until they were both out of breath that Emoting finally stopped and looked down at them. "If it wasn't because I wanted Junmani to know that you have a better figure, I would never have bought this dress." Tongning couldn't help but let out a gentle laugh. "Are you jealous?" Emoting once again pressed Tongning against the wall and whispered in her ear, "I'm not jealous. I'm just afraid something will happen to me because the temptation is too strong." The atmosphere and the ambiguity. Tongning didn't need to ask to know what Emoting was referring to. "In that case, should I change to another outfit?" Emoting wanted to continue, but Tongning placed her hands on her chest and said, "Ting, there are too many people here." In the end, Emoting simply nibbled on Tongning's earlobe. A moment later he let go. "Hurry and come out." After speaking, Emoting let go of Tongning and left the waiting room to return to the ballroom. At this time, the artists at Hai Rui were discussing a set of photos that had been posted online. They were photos of Tongning and Jinmani. In the same photo, Jinmani undoubtedly served as a foil to Tongning. How could Jinmani be so pathetic? The netizens began to express their thoughts. To think I trusted her so much and trusted her style on stage. She is such a domineering model. Forget it. Domineering. For someone like her who doesn't share the same channel online and offline. It's not surprising that she lost to Tongning. I finally understand why Tongning won. It's because she can wear any type of clothing. She's truly amazing. Most importantly, I realize this set of photos is filled with malicious intent. They specifically took a photo of their chest measurements. I'm sorry, but I think Tongning won completely. It has nothing to do with the outfit. On the way home, Jinmani lay in the back seat and cried. Charlene, who was sitting in the driver's seat, felt an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. Who would have thought that Tongning would be able to torture this woman to such an extent? I want to kill Tongning. I want to kill this woman. Jinmani screamed as she cried. Do you still have the chance? Charlene scoffed. In the past, you always had a group of people around you. But now that Mo Ting had withdrawn from the team, did you still think you were Hai Rui's treasure? Plus, don't worry, this matter isn't over yet. In order not to make Mo Ting jealous, Tongning changed into a new white dress with Fang Yu's help and walked out of the waiting room. As soon as everyone saw her, they couldn't help but laugh. Junior sister, have you been disciplined? Junior sister, President Mo doesn't want you to wear that starry sky dress anymore, does he? What a shame, it was so expensive. Junior sister, when President Mo left, you left too. You guys. Seeing everyone teasing her, Mo Ting grabbed her from the crowd. He had to place her by his side to feel safe. Of course, facing Mo Ting's face, who would dare to tease him? Chapter 266. Under the bright lights, Tongning tilted her head and glanced at Mo Ting. The king of the entertainment industry, her man, was looking at her with admiration. Tongning was a little confused. Just as she was about to ask, Mo Ting spoke first. There's another piece of good news. It's about you. Huh. Tongning bit her lip as her eyes filled with confusion. World-class designer Claude has sent Hai Rui an invitation for you to attend his product launch. Mo Ting explained to Tongning in a low voice. You should know, up until now, not many people have attracted the attention of a world-class designer. Coincidentally, there is only one in Asia, and that is you. Claude. Tongning was shocked. How could that be? Previously, I sent your information to the US to participate in the world's most beautiful legs competition, and was chosen by Claude. Mo Ting grabbed 2 glasses of champagne from the waiter's tray and handed one to Tongning. It's a pity you missed out on Victoria's Secret. There's still next year. Tongning comforted. No matter what happens in the future, who can guarantee that I won't be able to appear on the runway of Victoria's Secret next year? Mo Ting stretched out his hand and patted Tongning on the head as he said gently, You've already done well in 4 months. When are you leaving? On the 18th, I'll go with you. I'll go with you. And we'll conquer the world together. Tongning's eyes suddenly turned red as she held onto the champagne glass with one hand and grabbed onto Mo Ting's left hand with the other. Without anyone noticing, her fingers intertwined with his. Hey, junior sister, the song you sang with Hu Jingjing at the awards ceremony the other day, Lost, was very interesting. Why don't you sing it again? Around them, people started to ask Tongning to perform. But she wasn't a singer. With so many people present who knew the industry, Tongning didn't think she could embarrass herself. I was just singing for fun, Tongning rejected. What's wrong with that? Feng Ge doesn't know how to act, yet he still came to make a guest appearance. Haha. That's right, junior sister, come quickly. Tongning looked at Mo Ting awkwardly as she pinched his palm, trying to get him to help her out of this situation. However, Mo Ting threw her hand away. Go ahead. Tongning lifted her head and looked around. Suddenly, an idea came to her mind. So she grabbed Mo Ting's hand again and dragged him towards the stage. Wow! Is President Mo going to sing? I wonder how President Mo is going to sing. I wonder how President Mo's singing is. He's not tone deaf, right? Believe it or not, as long as President Mo is willing to act, his acting skills are enough to beat all the best actors out there. Tongning held onto Mo Ting's wrist as they walked onto the stage. At this time, the audience immediately gathered around to watch the show. She looked at him seriously, trying to decide whether he wanted to sing or not. If you really don't like it, then forget it. It's just, we've been married for so long, apart from knowing your lifestyle, I don't know your other hobbies. In fact, I don't even know what else you can do. After hearing this, he raised an eyebrow. What do I know and what don't I know? Isn't the information out there very complete? Don't give me that. Don't you know how accurate the information out there is? Do you really want to sing a duet with me? Tongning nodded her head, satisfying his pride as a man. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply received the microphone from Tongning and placed it to the side. Instead, he placed his gaze on the musician. Hand me the violin. The musician quickly handed over his violin. Mo Ting took it and said to Tongning, there are too many people here. I don't want to sing, but I can accompany you. You don't sing well? I don't want to sing in front of just anyone. When we get home, I'll slowly sing for you. Mo Ting chuckled before reminding her, let's begin. The violin wasn't even considered one of Mo Ting's skills, so no one present was surprised. But no one had ever heard him perform professionally before. As for what else Mo Ting could do, not many people in this world knew. Everyone watched with rapt attention as Mo Ting placed the violin on his shoulder. Afterwards, the prelude to Lost began to play in everyone's ears. Tongning held onto the microphone and began to sing. Although her technique wasn't top-notch, she had a high degree of completion, and her voice was very interesting. Following this, the interlude began. The melodious sound of the violin immediately joined in, stunning most of the singers present. Because Mo Ting was performing the passionate part of Lost. Tongning was also mesmerized by the performance. She was used to seeing Mo Ting dressed in a suit and dominating the business world. So it was rare to see this side of him, playing the violin. Tongning couldn't stop getting distracted. In fact, she forgot that she was only halfway through the song. Mo Ting glanced at her as a reminder. But Tongning simply put down the microphone. She wanted to hear him play the entire song. Mo Ting looked at her with a deep gaze and let her be. He focused on playing the entire song before returning the violin to the musician. Everyone was satisfied. In all the years of Hai Rui's existence, this was the first time Mo Ting had let himself go. Not only did he chat and laugh with the artists, he even personally performed on stage. Of course, how could Mo Ting be this good? He simply hoped that by doing this, Tongning would receive a little more care in Hai Rui, make more friends and make things less difficult for her. Unknowingly, the celebration dinner was coming to an end. Mo Ting wanted to carry Tongning out, but because she had been standing in her stilettos for too long, her legs were starting to feel uncomfortable. Mo Ting glanced at her. As they walked out of the ballroom, he suddenly knelt down and said to Tongning, get on, I'll carry you on my back. There are people outside. Tongning reminded him to quickly get up. Do you want to get on, or do you want me to carry you? In order not to discuss this issue in front of everyone, Tongning directly climbed onto Mo Ting's back. Everyone in the agency knows. The people outside don't know, Mo Ting replied. As long as I don't allow it to be released, no one will dare to spread it. Only things that I allow to be released will be released. For example, photos of Tongning and Junmani. At this moment, Tongning had no idea that the photos had already been released. Nor did she know that Junmani had been beaten up an hour after returning to the apartment. Mo Ting had already said that an eye for an eye would be paid back. Feng Yu's arrangements were perfect. At least, up until the moment Junmani entered the hospital, she still had no idea who had hit her. Charlene wasn't spared either. It was only a matter of time before someone like her was beaten up. However, deep down, Charlene knew that Hai Rui had dealt a heavy blow. She couldn't tolerate it any longer. She was going to take Hai Rui's secrets and jump ship to Star King, so she could be with her boyfriend. Chapter 267. Inside a quiet and cozy luxury hotel, Long Jie and Lu Che were sitting by the window having dinner together. Lu Che was a man of his word. He said he wouldn't see his parents, so he didn't make things difficult for Long Jie. However, thinking about how Lu Che said he would go to his home after dinner, Long Jie couldn't help but feel nervous as her palms broke out in a cold sweat. It seemed she wasn't ready to take their relationship to the next step. In order to hide her panic, Long Jie ate the steak that Lu Che had cut up and scrolled through the news on her phone. When she saw a stunning photo of Tongning, she would cheer. When she saw a photo of Zhen Mani being humiliated, she would complain. In the end, after the dinner, she browsed through the news of Charlene being beaten up online. Long Jie lifted her head and glanced at Lu Che as she placed her phone in front of him and asked, "Is this boss's doing?" Lu Che lowered his head and glanced at the phone. His voice was a little unclear. "Have you gotten your news faster than me?" Long Jie was stunned for a moment. She quickly cut up the steak on her plate and exchanged it with Lu Che. "This is all gossip. The only reason you guys don't need to know is because everything is under your control." Long Jie did not hide her admiration for Lu Che. But the fact that Long Jie managed to gather so many reporters and was able to share news faster than most big companies was already not an easy feat. Is this Xia Lin brainless? Does she think that if she cries out on the internet, people will care? First, she was humiliated by Zhen Mani. Now she has Hai Rui's revenge, and Star King has cut off all contact with her. Apart from going online, what else can she do? Lu Che put down his knife and fork and looked at Long Jie in seriousness. "Are you planning to keep talking about work during dinner tonight?" Long Jie froze for a moment as her body tensed up again. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's. "It's all because you scared me." "Me?" Lu Che didn't understand. "You said we would go to your home after dinner." After hearing Long Jie's words, Lu Che couldn't help but laugh. "I remember a certain someone once said she doesn't want to have sex before marriage. Can't you think of something else?" Long Jie let out a sigh of relief before complaining. "What do you mean by going to your home after dinner? Any girl would misunderstand." "I won't do anything to you." Long Jie threatened Lu Che with her fork. "Don't you dare." Lu Che smiled helplessly and gestured for her to eat quickly. With Lu Che's assurance, Long Jie finally relaxed and placed everything she didn't like on Lu Che's plate. Of course, as a boyfriend, he had the obligation to eliminate all the things his girlfriend didn't like to eat. After a delightful dinner, Lu Che brought Long Jie back to his apartment as expected. The couple entered his apartment one after another. Indeed, he did not undress Long Jie. He simply pressed her onto the sofa and kissed her. At first, Long Jie struggled a little. She felt this man wasn't keeping his word. But feeling her heart pounding, she asked herself in seriousness, "Don't I crave this man's kiss?" A moment later, she relaxed. The couple kissed passionately. However, that was where they stopped. Lu Che politely let go of Long Jie, even though he needed to return to his room to deal with some personal matters. Long Jie leaned against the door as she covered her heart and laughed. Translator, Uni editor. Uni. The pitch-black apartment was completely silent. After being beaten up and abandoned by her boyfriend, Charlene had been hiding in Zhen Mani's room, too afraid to leave. Exposing the incident online was the only thing she could do. But in reality, she had only suffered a few superficial injuries. She had originally found her boyfriend and wanted to use Hai Rui's secret to get him to help her enter Star King. But when she returned to her boyfriend's home, she found him playing an NPC battle with a wild model. Heartbroken, Charlene ran out of the apartment and realized she had nowhere to go. All she had was the keys to Zhen Mani's apartment. But what about the future? What was she going to do? Charlene stood up and looked around Zhen Mani's room. In the end, she made an extremely risky decision. She pulled out her pocket and placed all of Zhen Mani's jewelry inside. After all these years, she had been by Zhen Mani's side. Even if she hadn't done much, she had at least put in a lot of effort. Taking this little bit of jewelry really wasn't much. Especially when she thought about Zhen Mani's punches and kicks. Charlene practically flipped Zhen Mani's apartment upside down and took everything. However, on her way out, she received a phone call from an unknown number. "Is this Miss Xia?" "Hello, I am a reporter from Huarong Studio. My surname is Lin. It's like this, I saw your pitiful post online. Since that's the case, there's no point in you staying at Hairue. How about you join our agency? I'm not interested. After speaking, Charlene was about to hang up the phone. But the person's next sentence caught her attention. We are currently following Tongning. If you can provide us with some information, we can discuss the price. Tongning. Thinking of this name that made her clench her teeth, Charlene finally stopped her car by the side of the road and requested, I need a place to stay. No problem. The person replied straightforwardly. Give me your address, I'll head over right now. Hua Rong had been collecting evidence of Tongning's ambiguous relationships with various men. At least, they assumed that Tongning had been ambiguous with quite a few men. But as they watched Tongning's path go smoothly, and she became a signed artist of Hairue, the people at Hua Rong couldn't accept it. Not only did they need Tongning to make a name for themselves, they also desperately wanted to expose Tongning's true colors. 2 a.m. Charlene parked her car in front of the building where Hua Rong was located. Originally, she was a little afraid, but now that she had nothing left, what was there for them to lie to? After gathering her courage, Charlene entered the building and successfully met up with Editor Lin. To show his sincerity, Editor Lin took the initiative to hand over the evidence he had collected and said to Charlene, The first time I saw something wrong with Tongning was in the US. Afterwards, I followed her to a few other places and finally managed to capture a photo of her kissing a man at her manor. Now she's even been involved in a scandal with the CEO of Hairue. This woman keeps saying she doesn't have a boyfriend, but she's actually full of lies. Practically every country she goes to, she goes on a date with a man. Charlene looked at the blurry photo. It was impossible to tell who the man in the photo was, let alone tell him it was Mo Ting. What do you want me to do? Charlene asked Editor Lin. From the bottom of her heart, she felt that they shared a common enemy. Do you have any evidence of Tongning and the CEO of Hairue? No matter what it is, or could it be a photo? Editor Lin asked. We still lack evidence. Tongning is so reckless, she will definitely find someone else. As long as we capture 2 more photos, I can destroy her reputation. Chapter 268. Photos? Hairue's employees did have photos, but they would never leak them to the public. But since she was still an employee, it wouldn't be difficult for her to get her hands on them. But what about the compensation fee? It was a whopping $100 million. Charlene didn't want to take the risk. As long as you can help me get my hands on the photos, you can ask for anything, Editor Lin boasted. But if you reveal Hairue's secrets, you won't have a good ending. Isn't that easy? If an employee of Hairue drops their phone, and you simply pick it up, who can you blame? Even if Mo Ting decides to pursue the matter, the phone will be the one that dropped it, not you. Charlene thought about it and felt it made sense. What do I get out of it? Shares of Hua Rong Studio. When Tongning's incident is revealed, Hua Rong will be famous. Do you think there will be less people willing to give you money? Editor Lin smiled at Charlene in a flirtatious manner. Charlene thought about it for a moment. The thought of artists and even Tongning coming to beg her made her unusually excited. This was better than earning money. So in the end, Charlene nodded her head and signed the contract. Next, she would head to Hairue to get evidence of Tongning being intimate with a model. Hopefully, everything went smoothly. Otherwise, if Mo Ting caught her, she would die without a complete corpse. After the celebration dinner ended, Mo Ting and Tongning returned home reeking of alcohol. From the moment they stepped through the front door, Tongning held on to Mo Ting and spun him around in circles. In the end, they both fell onto the sofa. Tongning pressed herself onto Mo Ting's body as she rubbed her nose against his neck. Ting. I'm very happy. I can tell. Mo Ting allowed her to rub against him. In reality, it was rare to see Tongning this relaxed. It was rare to see her smile from the bottom of her heart, especially in front of so many strangers. If she could remain this happy, he was willing to do anything. What else can you do? Can you dance? Can you? Mo Ting's body tensed up from being rubbed against by her, but this woman did not seem to notice. So, Emo Ting stood up with her in his arms and began dancing on the smooth floor of his living room. Of course, with an alcoholic in tow, he could only perform the simplest of dance steps. Tongning lay on top of Emo Ting's body and followed his footsteps. The couple did not say a word, but Tongning felt the atmosphere was perfect. She did not need to say or do anything. All she needed to do was follow Emo Ting's footsteps and walk with him until the end of time. After quite some time, Tongning finally mumbled, "Have you thought about what would happen if the staff at Hai Rui didn't accept us? Ting. Did you know? Actually, I'm really nervous tonight. Because I'm afraid that there will be a second Jin Manny and a third Jin Manny. They will all come looking for trouble with you. If that's the case, I will feel very guilty and sad. But when you refuted Jin Manny, you were obviously very confident. How could I watch others bully you? Even I can't bear to scold you, so no one else has the right to. Of course I'm angry." As Emo Ting hugged her, he suddenly let out a gentle smile. Although he had experienced being doted on a few times in the past, being protected by Tongning once again made him feel exceptionally sweet. His heart had never been showered with so much honey before. "From now on, if I come across a situation like this again, I will still put my life on the line." Emo Ting suddenly stopped in his tracks and pressed Tongning down on the sofa. "I don't need you to put your life on the line. All I want is for you to repay me with your body." Under the light of the light yellow wall lamps, Tongning couldn't understand why she could see Emo Ting's handsome face clearly. Perhaps it was because she already had a rough idea of what he looked like in her heart. So she lifted her head and pressed her lips against Emo Ting's. Afterwards, their lips, which were filled with the aroma of alcohol, intertwined with each other. After the kiss ended, Tongning suddenly hooked her arms around Emo Ting's neck and said in an intoxicated manner, "What should I do? I feel like I will fall more and more in love with you. Did you only realize this now? This is a sweet acceptance of fate." After speaking, Tongning flipped her body over and pressed Emo Ting under her. "Let me take the initiative for once." After Hai Rui's celebration dinner, the next morning's headlines were filled with rumors that Hai Rui had banned Jin Manny. However, Hai Rui's PR department did not deny the rumor. This meant it wasn't a rumor, it was the truth. As for who started the rumor, everyone in the industry was well aware. Apart from Hai Rui themselves, no one else had the right to start a rumor. Actually, it was understandable. Hai Rui had been united for over 10 years. Yet when it came to Jin Manny, she dared to challenge Emo Ting's authority. Since she was going to leave sooner or later, it was better to cut the Gordian knot. When it came to this, Hai Rui had always been swift and decisive. Because Hai Rui wanted to tell everyone one truth. Anyone that tried to break the unity of Hai Rui, Jin Manny would suffer the worst fate. As the first artist that Hai Rui had banned, Jin Manny's main purpose was to intimidate others. No matter who you were, if you touched Hai Rui's bottom line, you would never be able to recover. Jin Manny sat in her hospital room as she looked at the news on her phone. Her pale face was covered in tears. Who would have thought, in one night, Hai Rui would completely destroy her? Yet she previously thought her status was enough to threaten Emo Ting. To threaten Emo Ting. This was the biggest joke in the world. Jin Manny sat in her hospital bed crying and laughing at the same time. In the end, she smashed her phone and electronic devices on the floor. If she found out that her home had been robbed clean by Charlene, how would she react? The thing that Jin Manny never expected was, the first person to visit her was Fang Yu. Of course, Fang Yu didn't come for nothing. He came with compensation. Although Hai Rui never owed you anything, you have been at Hai Rui for so many years. Keeping Cece for you is the biggest concession the president can make. Are you pitying me? Jin Manny asked Fang Yu with a look of anger. What do you think? Fang Yu replied straightforwardly. You don't need to think about how pitiful you are, and you don't need to hold a grudge against Tongning. Sooner or later, someone will replace you. Even if this person isn't Tongning, it will be someone else. But you've made a lot of bad decisions. For example, hitting Hu Jingjing. Jin Manny suddenly stopped talking. She turned her head and looked out the window. After quite some time, she finally said, Hu Jingjing isn't as pitiful as me. Because Hu Jingjing has a clear conscience. After speaking, Fang Yu handed all the information on Cici to Jin Mani. Don't ever appear in the modeling industry again, and don't ever appear in front of the president again. This is the president's biggest warning to you. What else could I have done? Jin Mani held onto the information and laughed at herself. After all, even if I did lose to Tongning might not end up well. Chapter 269. It's not up to you to decide whether Tongning is happy or not. You should worry about yourself first. After speaking, Fang Yu turned to leave. However, just as he reached the door, he turned around and said, I've already lured the reporters away for you. If you want to leave, you'd better do it now. Jin Mani looked at Fang Yu and suddenly laughed. Do you also like my butt and breasts? Do you want to sleep with me? Fang Yu snorted disdainfully. Are you dreaming? Jin Mani revealed a self-mocking smile as she propped herself up from the bed. Fang Yu, I don't want Cici anymore. I just have one request. Take me home. They had known each other for 6 years. Even though they hadn't interacted much, there was no need to be so ruthless. Fang Yu thought for a moment and nodded his head. Get changed. Jin Mani quickly put on a disguise and left the hospital under Fang Yu's cover. However, after Fang Yu escorted her home, he discovered Jin Mani's home was in a mess. Everything of value had been taken away. Needless to say, this person was Charlene. Only Charlene had the keys to Jin Mani's home. At this moment, Jin Mani finally understood what it meant to lose everything. So she collapsed to the ground. Out of righteousness, Fang Yu stretched out his hand and pulled her up. However, this simple action was captured by the paparazzi hiding in the opposite building. Not long after, news broke online that Hai Rui's artist director, Fang Yu, first had Hu Jingjing, then Jin Mani. He was enjoying the bliss of having 2 women. Even worse, it was revealed that Fang Yu had slept with an artist and helped a down-and-out model. In reality, he was involved in sex trafficking. Regardless, the fact that Fang Yu had helped Jin Mani proved that the photo was real. Meanwhile, Tongning was at Hu Jingjing's home when she saw this piece of entertainment news. The photo of Fang Yu pulling Jin Mani up was enlarged on the screen. Tongning subconsciously looked at Hu Jingjing. Hu Jingjing did not say a word. She simply turned off the TV because it was too noisy. Jingjing, Fang Yu isn't that kind of person. What does that have to do with me? Hu Jingjing asked curiously. Don't tell me you're trying to make us a couple? Let me tell you, this is impossible. Forget about the fact that I don't know how to be a stepmother. Even if I did, based on what Fang Yu did today, I would blacklist him. Maybe you really misunderstood. No matter how they misunderstood, they were together at that time, right? The media didn't frame us wrongly, did they? Hu Jingjing rolled her eyes and threw away the remote control. Tongning, not everyone is like President Mo. Before you met Boss Missouri, didn't you also meet a scumbag? I've already been hurt once. I won't be hurt a second time. I'm not a fool. I'm just saying. Why are you so agitated? Seeing Hu Jingjing's reaction, Tongning had a feeling she was trying to hide something. There were some things that the more one tried to hide, the faster they would be exposed. Seeing that Tongning did not believe her, Hu Jingjing sighed helplessly and replied in seriousness. Since things have come to this, I will be honest with you. For a woman like me, everyone knows that I've had 3 abortions, been with a scumbag, and been abused for nearly 10 years. To be honest, no man would want me. But even though I know this, I won't accept it, Hu Jingjing said as she looked down at the carpet. Fang Yu is a good person, but he treats everyone well. I know he doesn't have that kind of feelings for Jin Mani, but I don't like a man with a holy aura. It seems like everyone needs to be saved and comforted by him. So Tongning, I would rather find a French man or a German man to take care of the family. After hearing Hu Jingjing's words, Tongning thought about how she had 3 abortions and was with a scumbag. Her heart ached a little. Was this Hu Jingjing's fault? But Tongning understood. This incident would forever be buried in Hu Jingjing's heart, making her feel inferior at any moment. Okay, let's not talk about Fang Yu anymore. I will be going to France on the 18th. Do you want to come with me? Manager Emma wants to go, right? I don't want to. Hu Jingjing immediately rejected. Just like that, Hu Jingjing sentenced Fang Yu to death in her heart. Thinking about it, she felt it was a pity. But some people, fate was fate and it was useless to force it. As Tang Ning thought to herself, she was pulled back to reality by a phone call from Mo Ting. To prevent Hu Jingjing from being upset, Tang Ning grabbed her phone and headed to the living room. After returning to the bedroom, Hu Jingjing waved at Tang Ning. Is that President Mo? How long have you been away? I've never seen a man so clingy to his wife. I have work to do, Tang Ning explained. Hurry. I need to get some rest. Tang Ning glanced at Hu Jingjing helplessly before turning around and leaving the apartment. Mo Ting's car was parked downstairs. As soon as he saw Tang Ning, he immediately opened the car door for her. Hu Jingjing watched their interaction from the window. It would be a lie to say she wasn't envious, but where did her future lie? After holding it in for a moment, Hu Jingjing pulled out her phone and gave an old classmate a phone call. She agreed to go on a blind date because she needed a true relationship. Hai Rue Entertainment. 3 p.m. After Lu Che finished his work, he bumped into Fang Yu on the way. He couldn't help but grab onto his arm and ask, "What's going on between you and Jin Manny? What about Hu Jingjing?" "What do you mean, what about Hu Jingjing? What kind of relationship do I have with her?" Fang Yu asked, somewhat baffled. "If you don't like her, why did you go through 5 hours of cold weather for her, and even catch a cold? You're thinking too much." Fang Yu rolled his eyes. "I'm simply doing it out of morality." "Then, are you treating Jin Manny the same way?" Why don't you go and save the world?" Lu Che glared at him. He originally wanted to leave, but as he turned the corner, Charlene appeared in the office. "What is that woman doing here?" Fang Yu followed Lu Che's gaze and looked at Charlene. He then patted Lu Che on the shoulder. "You go do what you need to do. I'm going to handle a small matter." Lu Che turned around and left, while Fang Yu also walked towards Charlene. This thief that had robbed Jin Manny's home, how dare she appear here again? But for some reason Lu Che's question and Hu Jingjing's name suddenly popped up in his mind. Did he really meddle too much? Did he have too much sense of righteousness? Thinking of this, he subconsciously stopped in his tracks. As the artist director, he was used to handling PR for his artists and was smooth in front of the media. The only reason he did this was because of his professional instincts. He never had any ulterior motives. The only time he had acted impulsively was when he stood outside a senior official's door for 5 hours. Chapter 270. Fang Yu did not explain himself to anyone because he couldn't understand why Hu Jingjing, who had stood up for him after so many years of silence, would still move his heart. Above all, Hai Rue's artist director, who never cared about what the media said, immediately reacted to the rumor that he had an inappropriate relationship with Jin Manny. He used an artist from another agency to quickly divert the media's attention and shut up the public's mouths. Charlene's return to Hai Rue was like a street rat. She thought she was being careful, but as soon as she entered the agency, she was discovered by Fang Yu and Lu Che. According to how meticulous they were when it came to their work, it was impossible for them not to suspect Charlene's motive, especially since Fang Yu knew that Charlene had robbed Jin Manny's home clean. Charlene originally wanted to look for a manager that she had a good relationship with. But before she could enter their line of sight, Fang Yu sent a bodyguard to follow her. As soon as Charlene discovered the bodyguard's presence, her heart filled with anger. She was still an employee of Hai Rue and had her own pride. Yet, she was being treated like a thief. Charlene was so angry that she headed straight for Fang Yu's office and pointed to his nose. "What is the meaning of this?" Fang Yu closed the document and lifted his head to look at Charlene. "I'm afraid Hai Rue will lose something." "Fang Yu, don't go overboard. I'm sure you know better than anyone what happened at Jin Manny's home," Fang Yu asked coldly. Charlene suddenly looked a little flustered and lost. But she couldn't hide her cunning nature. "What do I know? All I know is Hai Rue hit Jin Manny." Fang Yu lifted his head and glared at Fang Yu. He realized there was a reason why Jin Manny had gotten to where she was today. But how did Charlene get into the agency? It wasn't that she wasn't smart. She was just trying to play tricks. As for the words she said, she was obviously blaming Fang Yu. Even if she had no evidence, she could still go around spouting nonsense. After this, I will send a termination letter to you through my lawyer. Charlene's expression changed. She hadn't achieved her motive yet. But since this was the decision of the higher-ups at Hai Rui, no matter how hard she tried, there was no way she could change Mo Ting's mind. So she directly threatened, "You will regret this." Afterwards, Charlene left Fang Yu's office. However, she did not immediately leave Hai Rui. Instead, she headed straight to Hai Rui's waiting room. As expected, regardless of whether it was the makeup artists or artists, they all had the habit of leaving their phones on the dressing table. Charlene took the opportunity and pretended to slip on purpose, falling on the dressing table. "Be careful." Charlene pretended to cover her abdomen in pain. In fact, she had already secretly placed one of the phones into her trouser pocket. Although she couldn't deny that Kuan Ye's figure was better than most men, compared to Mo Ting's, there was still a large gap. "What are you laughing at?" Mo Ting returned to the bedroom after a workout, covered in sweat. Seeing Tongning sitting on the bed with a silly smile on her face, he couldn't help but ask. Tongning lifted her head and looked at Mo Ting's perfect figure that was close to a Western man's and shook her head. Mo Ting approached her curiously and snatched the entertainment magazine from her hands. After seeing the PK points, he returned it to Tongning. "Tell me, what do you like the most about me?" Both men were handsome, rich, capable, and had a great figure. Most women chose to be rich. Of course, this wasn't Tongning's choice, but Mo Ting was still curious. "Capable." Tongning lowered her head and replied in a soft voice. It seemed there was a double meaning to her words. As soon as Mo Ting heard this, he pulled Tongning onto his lap. "Capable in what way?" "Huh." Tongning gasped as she hooked her arms around his neck. "You scared me to death. Hurry and have a shower, you're covered in sweat." "Answer me first." "Capable in every way." Tongning's face turned red. "I want to know in detail." "President Mo, you're not usually this bored." Tongning couldn't help but feel her heart race. As a woman, how could she say something like this out loud? Chapter 271. Compared to Mo Ting's mysteriousness, Kuan Yi received more interviews. Whenever he or his female companion was in a good mood, Kuan Yi would stop for an interview as if he was doing them a favor. For example, at this moment, he had just returned from the sea with the twin models. As soon as he got off the boat, he ran into reporters waiting for him. It was winter, but he was only wearing thin swimming trunks and calicali sunglasses. He was hugging two beauties, and his smile was vaguely yuppie. President Quan, as soon as you've returned to Beijing, you've received a lot of attention. You've dominated the headlines alongside Hai Rui's President Mo. What are your thoughts on this? Do you mind being piked? What do you think is different from CEO Mo? Kuan Yi stopped in his tracks and lowered his head to look at her through the slit of his sunglasses. He smiled and said, "My opinion? Honor. As for the difference, sexual orientation?" Kuan Yi let out a gentle laugh before hugging the female model and leaving the reporter's line of sight. It was from this moment onwards that the 32-year-old big boss of the entertainment industry, the CEO of Hai Rui Entertainment, was actually interested in men. Ever since Mo Ting took over Hai Rui, he had always kept a low profile and had never been involved in any scandals. Not to mention with a woman, he had never even been involved with a man. On the other hand, Kuan Yi was 27 years old. The number of girlfriends he had was almost equal to the number of artists at Star King. So the fact that he didn't have a girlfriend was quite strange in the eyes of outsiders. Even though he recently had Tongning and was reminded by Kuan Yi, it still felt like Mo Ting was trying to cover up his sexual orientation. In an instant, rumors of Mo Ting being gay spread like wildfire. As they were afraid that Hai Rui would cause trouble for them, they could only spread the news in secret. "Hey, have you guys heard? The CEO of Hai Rui? So Mo Ting is that. I can't believe it. It should be a deep closet. Think about it, he's never like a normal man who shows his body outside, not even his upper body. Gay men seem to care about other people's opinions, so they look more normal than normal people. What about Tongning? CP fans can go die if they want to. I, on the other hand, feel that this Quan Yi has quite a mouth. He lives a flamboyant life, but it's only normal for others to be like him. Can't there be people in the entertainment industry who keep a low profile? Maybe CEO Mo has already started a family. Then why are you still flirting with her? The mainstream media did not dare to report it openly. Only some wild netizens dared to casually spread it. Tongning, isn't this Quan Yi's mouth too cheap? Can't he see how much worse his weak chicken body is compared to our boss? How dare he insult him? When Long Jie saw the news, she yelled with righteous indignation, like boss, like company. Tongning turned around and looked at the tightly shut study room door. In reality, she didn't care how the people outside insulted her. But, right now they were talking about Mo Ting. Although Hai Rui had done their PR, the fact that Mo Ting was gay was still going to be criticized by the public. But if Tongning was the one to respond, she wouldn't be on the same level and wouldn't be very convincing. What did boss say? He didn't react. Tongning replied. This was a battle between the two CEOs. Outsiders shouldn't be able to interfere. So, you're just going to let Quan Yi slander you? Think of a way to teach that stud a lesson. Tongning lowered her head in deep thought for a moment before getting up from the sofa and walking towards the study room. Seeing her husband in the middle of work, she walked over and sat down beside him, accompanying him as he signed all the documents. What happened? I've seen the news online, Tongning said as she leaned into Mo Ting's embrace. To be honest, I'm a little uncomfortable. This Quan Yi is trying to pull you down from your pedestal, but I don't want to agree to it. Mo Ting held onto the documents in one hand as he stroked Tongning's hair. Based on his weak chicken body. Are you not going to respond? I've already given his father a phone call and asked him if there's a problem with his education. If he doesn't know how to teach himself, I will have no choice but to teach him myself. Mo Ting scanned through the documents as he answered Tongning's question. Do you know his father? Although Hai Rui and Star King are two different companies and compete fiercely, the older generation are still friends. You actually reported him? Tongning was a little surprised. Of course, she had no idea that Hai Rui and Star King had a relationship. That's why I was invited to the reception. Mo Ting put down the documents and looked down at Tongning. When the time comes, his father and second uncle will be attending. It can be considered a reconciliation dinner. Second uncle? Tongning caught onto the keyword in Mo Ting's words. I'm going to. Are you afraid of seeing your uncle? Mo Ting asked. After realizing she was indeed a little nervous, he continued. Not a lot of people in the Mo family know that I'm married, so you should focus on being my female companion. Are you going to let it go just like that? Tongning did not expect things to end so easily. Mo Ting knew that Tongning didn't normally fight for things. Even when she was often slandered, she didn't take it to heart. But he had only been slandered once, so Tongning still remembered it. Since you care so much about my reputation, do you think I'd let it go so easily? Mo Ting asked with a deeper meaning. The light in his eyes was deep and sharp. Tongning couldn't help but laugh. Since Mo Ting said he would retaliate, there was no need for her to worry anymore. What day is the reception? 7 p.m. tomorrow night. In that case, I'll go pick out a dress right now. To be honest, although she was only going as Mo Ting's female companion, the person she was going to meet was Mo Ting's second uncle. Tongning didn't want to leave a bad impression. So, as soon as Mo Ting told her the time, she immediately headed to the wardrobe and nervously picked out a dress. Seeing his arms were empty, Mo Ting shook his head helplessly and mumbled to himself. Normally, she's not afraid of anything. A little woman is indeed a little woman. Long Jie was sitting downstairs bored. Seeing Tongning in the wardrobe picking out a dress, she couldn't help but walk over and ask, "What are you doing? Are you going to attend another event? Or are you going to an award ceremony?" "I'm going to meet his parents," Tongning replied gently. "Long Jie, I'm a little nervous." Long Jie could understand. After all, Tongning's family was quite complicated. She had never received much respect from her family, including the time she interacted with Han Yufan's family. So, she never really got along with her family. Now that she was suddenly going to meet someone from the Mo family, it was understandable that she was a little nervous. Don't be nervous. I don't know who it was that got so scared that he hung up on Lu Che. You want to compete with me? You just need to be yourself. Leave everything else to boss. Long Jie rolled her eyes. Tongning, show me your confidence on the runway. Just treat it like a runway show. Chapter 272. Huarong Studio. Editor Lin's office. Charlene finally returned the phone that she had previously given to the programmer to unlock. Editor Lin sat in his office chair nervously. In the end, he opened the photo album on his phone and flipped through the photos. Most of the photos were of Tongning and Jun Manny at Hai Rui's celebration dinner. Editor Lin looked at the photos and saw the comparison between Tongning and Jun Manny. Deep down, he was more impressed by Tongning. After all, it wasn't common to see a model that matched their outfit perfectly. But he didn't like the fact that Tongning played with a man and pretended to be innocent. Thinking of this, Editor Lin continued to flip through the photos. To his surprise, he found a few photos of Tongning and Mo Ting being intimate. Especially photos of Tongning hanging onto Mo Ting's arm when she was drunk and Mo Ting carrying her out of the celebration dinner. What a good move, Editor Lin sneered. Today was the day that the news of Mo Ting being gay spread like wildfire. However, if a photo was to be leaked, the rumor would collapse on its own. After all, the two of them were so intimate, no one would believe that they weren't a couple. But he wasn't going to expose it just yet. Finally, he found another piece of evidence. Tongning, it won't be long before your reputation is destroyed. 7 p.m., Caesar Hotel. Hua Jingjing had agreed to go on a blind date with her classmates. To show that she was determined to leave her past behind, she dressed up to the nines. She didn't look any worse than attending an award ceremony. After arriving at the VIP seat, Hua Jingjing noticed the man was already waiting for her. Hua Jingjing looked down at her watch. This young and handsome Frenchman was quite punctual. After working in the industry for so many years, Hua Jingjing was proficient in many languages. So the two of them had no problems communicating. However, seeing how gentlemanly the man was, Hua Jingjing didn't want to waste his time. So, she directly revealed her background and past experiences. The man listened calmly and occasionally sighed. However, he did not look down on Hua Jingjing in the slightest. This made Hua Jingjing relax. The Frenchman was called Brat. He was the CEO of a jewelry company in Asia. He was gentlemanly and had a successful career. But up to this day he was still single. Hua Jingjing had a good impression of this man's mannerisms. At the same time, his facial features were pleasing to the eye. The couple chatted for 3 to 4 hours before Brat escorted Hua Jingjing back to her apartment like a gentleman. Hua Jingjing felt they were a good match, so she immediately gave Tongning a phone call and told her about the blind date. The other party doesn't mind my past at all. There are no problems with our communication, and everything is suitable. I'm very satisfied. Do you simply think it's suitable? For some reason, Tongning felt there was something wrong with Hua Jingjing's mentality. Suitable. Compatibility doesn't mean they can live together forever, because all love is built on the foundation of worship. Had President Hua Jingjing not seen enough? She just felt inferior. To put it more bluntly, she felt that she was just a broken shoe. She didn't have the courage to face people from her own country. If she married a foreigner, she could just emigrate in the future. You'll know once we get to know each other, Hua Jingjing said excitedly. I think Brat will be a great man. Feng Yu wasn't one? Tongning asked in her heart. No matter what, I've already made up my mind. I'll get married in the middle of next year, and have a child by the end of the year. Hua Jingjing was already thinking about her future. Did she really not consider Feng Yu at all? Okay, you can give it a try. If it really doesn't work out, you should get out of it. I know. By the way, what's with Quan Yi? Is he trying to slander President Mo? Would Mo Ting be easily slandered by him? Tongning asked angrily. She was only more casual around Hua Jingjing. Don't worry about us. Focus on yourself. This time, don't do anything stupid. Hu Jingjing nodded her head seriously. But after hanging up the phone, she leaned against the wall and squatted down. For some reason, she still felt lonely. In order to welcome her new life, Hu Jingjing requested to return to work. So the next day, she returned to the agency with her manager to report to Fang Yu and take over her previous job. During this time, Brat even gave her a phone call and invited her for lunch. Hu Jingjing felt the timing was right, so she told him to wait in the office's parking lot. Hu Jingjing and Fang Yu were the same as before. They only talked about business. It didn't take long for the two to come to an agreement. Afterwards, Fang Yu stood up from his seat and prepared to leave. Where are you going? Do you want me to give you a ride? No need, someone is here to pick me up, Hu Jingjing replied politely. The two walked out of the parking lot together and entered the same area. Just as Fang Yu opened the car door, he saw Hu Jingjing board a foreign man's car. Fang Yu took a closer look and finally realized who was picking Hu Jingjing up. Brat. Without thinking too much, Fang Yu headed straight for the couple's car and dragged Hu Jingjing out of Brat's car. Fang Yu? What are you doing? Fang Yu grabbed her and dragged her into his car. He ignored Brat's shouts and left Hai Rui with Hu Jingjing. Give me an explanation, Hu Jingjing said in a cold tone as she turned her body slightly. Fang Yu's expression was a little dark as he parked the car in a quiet place. After a few seconds of silence, he asked, How did you know Brat? Hu Jingjing was also surprised how Fang Yu knew Brat. Her curiosity suddenly overpowered her anger as she pointed out the window. A classmate introduced me to him. Do you have a brain? Or did your classmate set you up? Hu Jingjing, you're not a child anymore. Can't you tell the difference? Do you know how famous Brat is in the gay industry? Fang Yu questioned Hu Jingjing in disappointment. Hu Jingjing was left speechless. When are you going to improve your judgment of men? At least I'm better than you. You always try to help everyone. Hu Jingjing was so angry that she subconsciously blurted out what was on her mind. Fang Yu was stunned. Hu Jingjing realized she had said the wrong thing, so she quickly shut her mouth and looked out the window. In the end, Fang Yu compromised first as he restarted the car. I'll take you home. I just want to find someone that doesn't look down on me. Hu Jingjing's eyes slowly turned red. So what if I'm an international supermodel? In other people's eyes, I'm just a worn-out broken shoe. Your body isn't as important as you think. If you treat yourself like a broken shoe, no one will take you seriously. If you were, would you want it? Hu Jingjing asked as she turned around in excitement. After asking, she realized she was being too impulsive. Sometimes, when faced with feelings, one would become irrational. No matter how many times one was taught a lesson, one would never learn. Chapter 273. Fang Yu tilted his head and glanced at Hu Jingjing. He replied in seriousness without his usual flippant manner. No one would want someone that constantly denies themselves. Fang Yu's answers had always been flawless. This time it was no different. He avoided the important points by pointing out that Hu Jingjing wasn't in a good state. At the same time, he avoided the sharp answer that Hu Jingjing wanted. It wasn't a matter of whether he wanted her or not, but as long as it was a man, no one would want her. Hu Jingjing almost forgot that Fang Yu was the artist director and PR director of Hai Rui. His words had always been flawless. No one could find any loopholes in them. So she let out a laugh and sat quietly in the car without saying a word. She didn't like the feeling of being unpredictable, and she didn't like hiding things. Most importantly, she was afraid. She had been afraid for a long time. Perhaps he felt the atmosphere in the car was too quiet. So Fang Yu cleared his throat and said to Hu Jingjing, We've arrived. In that case, thank you. You don't need to send me off. After speaking, Hu Jingjing prepared to step out of the car. However, Fang Yu suddenly did something that even he couldn't understand. He leaned over and held onto Hu Jingjing's hand as he explained in a serious tone. It's true that I helped Jin Mani, but I've never treated her like a woman. Hu Jingjing froze for a moment. She was surprised that Fang Yu had actually explained things to her. She then asked, In that case, who did you treat as a woman? Fang Yu let go of Hu Jingjing and replied, My daughter. Hua Jingjing glared at Fang Yu, opened the car door and stepped out of Fang Yu's car. Fang Yu let out a gentle laugh as he waved goodbye to Hua Jingjing and drove out of the apartment. Although Hua Jingjing hadn't completely calmed down, at least Fang Yu had explained things to her. However, it was quite tiring to speak so carefully. On the other hand, was the classmate that introduced her to Tongning on purpose? Or was it unintentional? If it was intentional, then it could only mean that the culprit was truly ruthless. In the end, the blind date incident turned into Fang Yu's interference. This time, Hua Jingjing did not tell Tongning about it because she wanted to keep it to herself. The next morning, Hyatt Regency. When Tongning didn't have work to do, she would personally help Mo Ting choose clothes. So it was common to see Mo Ting standing naked in front of the mirror, as Tongning brought his clothes over to her, and helped him put them on, piece by piece. Because of this, Mo Ting wasted around half an hour of his time. But seeing the look of enjoyment on her face, he had no choice but to let her do as she pleased. I have something to do tonight, so I'll head over directly. Lu Che will come pick you up, and we'll enter together at the entrance. Tongning was in the middle of helping Mo Ting button up. As she looked at Mo Ting's perfect body, her mind was once again reminded of the white chopped chicken. Although she didn't want her husband's body to be seen by others, it was only once. Using it to defeat the white chopped chicken in an instant wasn't too bad, right? Mo Ting lowered his head to look at Tongning's expression. Actually, even without Tongning saying it, he already knew what she was thinking. He was experienced in being slandered by the woman he loved. Every time, he had to endure it until he vomited blood. But because he had endured it before, he didn't want Tongning to suffer because of him. Are you done? Tongning nodded her head as she stood on her tiptoes and bit Mo Ting on the shoulder out of habit. This was a little secret between the couple. So, regardless of whether Tongning was happy or not, she would still do this. As for Mo Ting, regardless of whether it was painful or not, he would not show it. He simply wrapped his arms around her and placed a kiss on the top of her head before putting on his coat and leaving the house in satisfaction. Tongning stood by the window as she watched Mo Ting's car drive away. She placed her hand on her rapidly beating heart. She didn't know what was going on. They had already been married for so long, but whenever she was with Mo Ting, her heart would still race like they had just gotten married. As she turned around, Tongning noticed the entertainment newspaper on the table. Thinking about Kuan Ye's shameless words, she felt a little unhappy. Tonight, he was Mo Ting's opponent, while the people she needed to defeat were the twin models. Even though, from what she saw, there wasn't much suspense. Since the meeting this time was to resolve things peacefully, the media would definitely be present. But according to her understanding of Mo Ting, things like resolving things should only be discussed after he had gotten his revenge. So, she was suddenly looking forward to their meeting tonight. But when she thought about Mo Ting's second uncle, she felt a little nervous. That afternoon, Tongning was preparing at home when Long Jie arrived at Hyatt Regency with news from Hai Rui. Tongning, I heard someone from the gay industry has called Hai Rui to harass you. It's all because of that jerk from Star King. Since you already know he's a jerk, why don't you just give him a slap in the face? Why bother? After speaking, Tongning tried on a simple qipao. As soon as Long Jie saw it, she was stunned. Tongning, it's rare to see you wearing a qipao. It's so beautiful. Tongning looked at the clothes on her body and was still a little nervous. Is it too formal? Since you are meeting the elders, this is perfect. Long Jie nodded her head in approval. That's why I say, I will always lose to you in terms of intelligence. Because you really cater to what they like. The older generation have a strong sense of patriotism. If you dress like this, I wonder how many memories you will bring back. Isn't it too deliberate? You weren't even this nervous when you were at a luxury fashion show. Long Jie glared at her before giving her a reassuring look. You are perfect. This time, even Mo Ting did not expect his wife to wear a qipao. Even though he had always known his wife had a sharp mind, he did not expect her to wear a qipao. 7 p.m. The sky was dark, but snow was falling from the sky above Beijing. Inside the high-class clubhouse, the Quan family and second uncle had already arrived. However, Mo Ting did not arrive on time. He was almost 10 minutes late. Second Master Mo immediately explained to the Quan family, "It's snowing. I heard there was a traffic jam on the road, so I arrived late." Father Quan laughed casually. "This is a common occurrence. What's wrong with waiting a little longer?" Today, Quan Yi did not bring his flirtatious model duo. However, his expression was obviously impatient. He knew Mo Ting had arrived late on purpose to make the Quan family wait. Apart from the two families, the entire hall was filled with reporters waiting to let them in. This was simply a show, and Quan Yi was simply speaking the truth. Mo Ting was 32 years old, but he had never been with a woman. Who knew if he was actually interested in men? 7 p.m. Tang Ning wrapped herself in a black trench coat and arrived at the entrance of the high-class clubhouse under Lu Che's protection. Mo Ting had just arrived. As soon as he saw his beloved wife, he immediately grabbed her hand and placed it in the crook of his arm. "Don't be nervous. In a moment, I will do my best to satisfy you." In fact, the elders of the two families were just putting on an act. In the business world, knives and swords have no eyes. They had already hurt each other so many times. How could they really be good friends? As expected, Father Quan was left speechless by Second Master Mo. After quite some time, he finally returned to the topic at hand. This time, Quan Yi did not watch his mouth properly and caused trouble for Mo Ting. "I feel a little bad. Old man Quan, are you going to let it go just because you're sorry?" Mo Ting asked. "If President Mo is really capable, he can prove it to the media. Is there a need to complain to my father?" Quan Yi responded in the same way. His tone was frivolous and his attitude was arrogant. It was obvious he wasn't here to apologize. Of course, Mo Ting wasn't here to make him apologize. "How dare you?" Father Quan yelled as he turned to Quan Yi. "Apart from playing with women, what else do you do? I don't understand. Does Star King need to be suppressed by Hai Rui?" It seems President Quan is not convinced. Mo Ting raised an eyebrow at the father and son. Mo Ting raised an eyebrow at the father and son opposite him. At this time, Second Master Mo had no intention of interfering. He simply wanted to watch the show. "Why don't you prove to me that you are a real man?" Quan Yi narrowed his eyes as he looked at Second Master Mo lazily. "In that case, let's compete." Mo Ting replied straightforwardly. "Compete in what? Since the clubhouse has everything, let's compete one by one. You can choose any event you want. We will compete in 5 rounds. As long as you score 1 point in front of me, I will consider it your win." 1 point was considered a win. Not only was Quan Yi shocked, even Tang Ning was in disbelief after hearing this. Just 1 point was considered a win? How humiliating and humiliating was this? Quan Yi's face turned red as he stood up from his chair. "Since we are men, we should use our fists to do the talking. Let's compete in boxing for the first round. Remember what you said." Mo Ting smiled elegantly. "Let me say this first, I need to let the media in," Second Master Mo said as he pointed to the reporters who were flashing their lights. Originally, Second Master Mo thought Mo Ting would object. But this time, Mo Ting reacted differently and replied, "Whatever." Afterwards, he pulled Tang Ning up from her seat. "Let's meet at the boxing arena in 10 minutes. Let's go get ready." "Go get ready, do you need to bring?" Second Master Mo turned his head and looked at the couple with a deeper meaning. Mo Ting's expression did not change as he raised his eyebrows. "Yes." After speaking, he pulled Tang Ning towards the boxing hall, completely ignoring the reporters at the entrance. Second Master Mo turned around and sighed. He realized the usually emotionless nephew of his actually had such a side to him. What a surprise. Quan Yi watched as the couple left before he also left the dining table and headed towards the boxing arena. "In that case, should we go as well?" Second Master Mo asked Father Quan. "Let's go have a look." In reality, Father Quan also wanted to know the difference between his son and someone else's son. Following that, the media was also allowed through and brought into the boxing hall, becoming the audience for the two of them. The reason Hai Rui let us go today was to clear up the rumors from before, right? What rumors can boxing clear up? From what I see. When has President Mo ever lost? Previously, during the PK rankings, the netizens all commented that President Kwan's body was perfect. So I think President Mo wants everyone to see his body. But he's not someone that has nothing better to do. Then how do you explain the scene in front of us? The reporters found a good spot and began to whisper amongst themselves. Of course, Mo Ting wasn't normally this bored. But that was before Tongning said those words. Those words. She didn't want him to be pulled down from his pedestal. Sometimes, when life was too boring, taking his wife out to have some fun could add to the fun. Especially since he could also abuse the jerk. Inside the changing room, Tongning looked at Mo Ting's naked upper body and couldn't help but blush. I don't want others to see it. It's fine. Others can only take a glance. From now on, they can only drool. Chapter 275. Boxing was a competitive sport, and it was also a form of aesthetics that contained violence. It required strong muscle strength, psychological warfare, and physical endurance combat. A proper boxing match required 5 rounds, and each round lasted 2 minutes. If the opponent remained on the ground for 10 seconds, the winner would be considered. Mo Ting was not in the mood to waste a few rounds with Kuan Yi, so the two agreed to decide the winner in 1 round. Before Mo Ting stepped onto the stage, Kuan Yi quickly put on a bandage and gloves. In order to prove that this was a high-standard match, professional boxers normally did not wear helmets and gloves. So Kuan Yi did not put on any on either. He simply wore shorts and a pair of soft-soled shoes as he entered the field of view of the crowd. Kuan Yi's body wasn't bad. His limbs were well-proportioned and his muscles were well-defined. He was stronger than the average man. The only thing lacking about him was that his skin was as white as a woman's. That's why Mo Ting referred to him as a boiled chicken. But even the boiled chicken that Mo Ting referred to was met with loud cheers and endless applause. Afterwards, Kuan Yi stepped onto the stage to warm up. He seemed to enjoy the feeling of being praised by others. He enjoyed being in the limelight. Even if he wasn't the heir to Star King, he was destined to become a famous celebrity. That was the only way he could enjoy the attention that others couldn't. Elder Quan and Elder Mo were also seated in the audience. Elder Quan's first thought upon seeing his son was, it seemed, even though he was playing around with women, he did not neglect his body. Not bad. Meanwhile, Second Master Mo had a confused expression as he sat beside Father Quan with his arms crossed. He was deep in thought. The last time Mo Ting had punched someone was 10 years ago. Back then, he had given Kuan Yi a concussion with a single punch. 10 years later he had restrained his youthful arrogance, so he probably wouldn't use so much strength. Otherwise, if he injured Kuan Yi, he wouldn't know how to compensate the Quan family. Why hasn't President Mo appeared yet? To be honest, President Kwan's body is indeed good. Did you really think that he was simply a rich young master? Hearing the discussions of the reporters behind him, Elder Quan felt an inexplicable sense of relief. Although Star King had been under pressure from Hyrule for many years, if his son could beat Mo Ting in terms of physique, he would at least win once and it would bring him some pride. You people, it sounds like you don't work out very much. That's why you think this body is good. Wait and see. But I've never seen President Mo build a body before. I'm sorry, but every villa in Hyatt Regency has its own gym. Do you think they need to let you see them? Second Master Mo couldn't stand the noise around him, so he coughed lightly to signal the reporters to know their limits. Didn't they see that there were 2 elderly people in front of them? Following that, the surroundings fell silent. Right after that, 2 figures entered the boxing gym. Originally, they had their backs to the lights, so no one could see them clearly. But as soon as they entered the boxing hall, the audience became excited. Some people even stood up uncontrollably. All of them looked at Mo Ting in disbelief, as if they were afraid that they would miss out on a single detail. Strong and well-proportioned 8-pack abs, well-developed chest muscles like those of a Westerner, arms and fists that contained explosive power, and bronze-colored skin that exuded extreme male hormones. The reporters stared at Mo Ting's figure in a daze. They almost forgot about the cameraman. Oh my God! Wasn't this too perfect? So many men want a body like this. It's too shocking, hurry and take a photo. Do you believe that President Kwon can't even withstand a single punch from President Mo? After seeing President Mo's body, I suddenly feel like President Kwon is a bit like a woman. Hearing the comments coming from all directions, Kwon Yi stood in the boxing ring and watched as Mo Ting walked closer and closer to him. He suddenly felt a burning sensation on his face. The votes online had all been given to him for his figure, and he accepted it as a matter of course. He had never expected Mo Ting's body to be this good. Wasn't Mo Ting a famous workaholic? With this comparison, he looked at himself. Kwon Yi suddenly had the urge to run away at the last minute. He believed, with the developed muscles on Mo Ting's arms, his explosive power would be extremely shocking. Tongning followed behind Mo Ting with Mo Ting's black trench coat hanging on her arm. Of course, she could already tell the outcome of the match from the reactions of the audience. Kwon Yi's mouth was too cheap. With his white-cut chicken body, he was only good enough for Mo Ting to practice on. Second Master Mo looked at Mo Ting with admiration. Who would have thought 10 years had passed and Kwon Yi's body was still in such good shape? In fact, it was even better than before. However, Elder Kwon's face turned from red to white. He was starting to worry if Kwon Yi would be able to stand up after Mo Ting's punch. Quick, take a few more photos. There aren't many men in Beijing with such a good body. Hurry up and take more photos. Haha, just thinking about it makes me happy. This time, those that voted for President Kwon are going to have their faces slapped swollen. How could such a manly man be gay? Don't joke with me. Hayes, I really want to be as happy as Tongning, helping President Mo with his clothes. Speaking of which, what's going on? Did they exchange manager roles? In the audience, everyone was in high spirits, especially after Mo Ting walked into the boxing ring. Kwon Yi took a few steps back. His eyes were filled with caution, but he refused to admit defeat. Mo Ting looked at Kwon Yi and wrapped a bandage around his wound. If you want to admit defeat, it's not too late. Let me warn you first, 10 years ago, someone took a punch from me and is still in the hospital. If Mo Ting had said this with his clothes on, Kwon Yi would definitely have laughed. But Mo Ting was standing naked in front of him. His entire body was filled with hormones and a sense of violence. Kwon Yi did not dare to underestimate Mo Ting. Kwon Yi looked at his opponent, and then back at himself. In the end, before the fight even started, he admitted defeat in his heart. I give up. There were still a few more rounds to go. He refused to believe that Mo Ting would have the upper hand in all of them. Especially when it came to eating, drinking and playing. Was there anyone that could beat him? As soon as Mo Ting heard the word I give up, he suddenly pointed to Tongning and said, You might not even be able to beat her. If I go up, I would be bullying you. In the next round, I will try my best to let you win. Kwon Yi looked at Tongning and scoffed. President Mo can't possibly win all the time. Let's give it a try then. Kwon Yi turned around and jumped off the boxing ring. By the time he returned to Father Kwon's side, he felt a little embarrassed. But at least it was better than being humiliated and getting beaten. I never expected the rascal to be so good at hiding his strength. What do you want to compete in the next round? Show us what you're good at. A good student like him should never go overboard. Father Kwon said. Chapter 276. Father Kwon regarded Mo Ting as an obedient student. This was simply because his son was a typical playboy. Kwon Yi enjoyed the attention that the entertainment industry brought him, and the countless women around him. But he was not suited to be a person in power. Because apart from arrogance and self-righteousness, he had nothing else. Second Master Mo suddenly felt Mo Ting was a little cruel. It seemed, as the favored son of the heavens, Kwon Yi had been treated like a treasure from a young age. No one had ever dared to go against him. Unfortunately, there was still a Mo Ting in this world. The media immediately posted all the photos they had taken online. The legendary reconciliation dinner, in the end, ended with a battle. Of course, this wasn't the focus of the netizens' attention. Everyone was captivated by Mo Ting's body. That's right, his body. All they heard was a slap to the face. With Mo Ting's heaven-defying body, He couldn't be compared to a white-cut chicken. Wipe off the blood from my nose. My HP bar is empty. Oh God. With this body, I can beat Quan Yi by 10 streets. The commenter above calmed down. After an evaluation, after browsing through male model websites, I couldn't find a better body, unless it was an athlete. Oh God, who was the one that said President Mo didn't have a body? I'm so angry. I'm on the wrong side. With a body like this, according to an evaluation by an expert, the chances of him being gay are practically zero. His hormones are too strong and he's too charming. The internet was in an uproar. Those that originally supported Quan Yi had now switched their allegiance to Mo Ting. Not only that, Mo Ting's sexy figure was finally revealed. He was now seen as a fitness role model by many men and women, and a goal for them to aim for. Of course, this was also the first time Long Jie had seen Mo Ting's body. Although apart from Tongning and Lu Che, she was the person that interacted with Mo Ting the most. Before she saw the photo, she would never have imagined that Mo Ting's body was this good. Oh God, I'm going to have a nosebleed. After putting down her phone, Long Jie glanced at Lu Che, and couldn't help but think back to Lu Che's body. Don't worry, although I can't compare to the president, I'm still better than a white-cut chicken. Long Jie let out a gentle laugh as she put down her phone in satisfaction. Let's see what kind of nasty words the people that still supported Quan Yi can say. Afterwards, Long Jie picked up her phone, and looked down at the quiet Tongning waiting for Mo Ting below the stage. Long Jie couldn't help but poke the woman on the screen. Look at our Tongning's bitter life. She struggled all the way to where she is today, only to have someone step all over her big boss. Luckily, the couple have always been united. You and I are not of the same mind? Long Jie glared at him proudly. That's different. But I am sure that it was you who had a crush on me first. Long Jie. I regret it now, especially after seeing boss's body. Lu Che. If you continue like this, you will lose your boyfriend. Long Jie smiled as she snuggled into Lu Che's embrace. No, to be exact, she dominated his embrace. At this moment, the venue of the high-class clubhouse had changed. Everyone felt it was a shame that they didn't get to see Mo Ting's fists in action. How domineering would it be? Tongning accompanied Mo Ting as he changed back into his suit. She then placed a jacket on his body. I really regret it. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have exposed your body. Right now there are hungry wolves everywhere. What do you think we should do? But, aren't you the only one that has gotten to taste the meat? Mo Ting lowered his hand and held onto Tongning's slender fingers. If you think a place like this is boring, you can tell me. I will directly KO them. No, I'm actually quite curious about what the next round will be, Tongning said as she held onto Mo Ting's hand and led him out of the changing room. Of course, tonight, she simply wanted to be Mo Ting's foil. So, even though the media managed to capture a few photos of Tongning, they were either her holding onto Mo Ting's jacket as she stood below the stage, or she was quietly standing by Mo Ting's side. The couple did not do anything intimate, but the way they entered and exited together made the reporters at the scene eat a mouthful of dog food. After getting changed, the couple returned to the main hall. This time, the media were temporarily isolated from the public. Mo Ting's previous round was too powerful. Without the flashes of cameras, Tongning finally relaxed. It wasn't because she was afraid, but because she felt like she could no longer control the admiration she had for Mo Ting. She was afraid the media would capture it, and she was afraid it would be exposed in front of him. Of course, the more she understood Mo Ting, the more she couldn't control her feelings for him. She liked him so much that she couldn't control herself, so much that she couldn't be saved. What are we competing in this time? Second Master Mo asked the father and son sitting opposite the fountain. Quan Yi unrestrainedly swung his legs on the table and raised his eyebrows. Why don't we play cards? Since the media have already left, there is no need for us to compete in 5 rounds. Let's just play some random cards. Let's play Texas. However, I want to place a bigger bet this time. What are you betting on? Mo Ting asked calmly with a calm expression. Quan Yi glanced at Mo Ting before straightening up and looking at Tongning. He then pointed his finger at Tongning and said, I bet on her. If you lose, this model will belong to me. Even Father Quan could tell that Kuan Yi was purposely causing trouble, let alone the Mo family's uncle and nephew. You can also make a request. Mo Ting lowered his head and thought for a moment before smiling. She's not a bet. Isn't she just a model? If I lose, I can still sleep with your twins. Mo Ting's expression darkened. Father Quan immediately noticed, so he grabbed onto Kuan Ye's arm and said, "Rascal, are you asking for a lesson? Look at President Mo's expression." "What? Are you afraid?" The more Kuan Yi was scolded, the more he wanted to win. Just as Mo Ting was thinking about how to teach this arrogant jerk a lesson, Tongning suddenly said, "I'll bet with you. But if you lose, you will go on all the big platforms and say that I'm a jerk and that I can't do it." Father Quan's face turned red. Just as he was about to say something, Kuan Yi stood up excitedly. "Okay. That's settled then. However, I don't bully women. You and President Mo can come at me together. You guys are considered family." Mo Ting looked at Tongning without saying a word. Since Kuan Yi thought he didn't know how to do it, and was so confident, he might as well go along with him. Most importantly, he could play Texas with Tongning in his arms. Second Master Mo sighed to himself once again. He felt that the Quan father and son did not bring their eyes with them when they left home. If they had chosen someone else from the Mo family, they might have had a chance of winning. But challenging Mo Ting? He really wanted to find a place to sleep. A competition like this with no suspense was only meant for Mo Ting to date and coax his little wife. Chapter 277. After the father and son left, Mo Ting turned around and looked at Tongning. He asked dotingly and helplessly, "You agreed so quickly. Aren't you afraid you'll lose?" "I know how to play Texas," Tongning replied. "With me around, you don't need to do anything. Eating, drinking and having fun are the strengths of a spoiled brat. Are you sure you can win? You definitely won't let me lose." Tongning lowered her head and took a deep breath. "Don't ask why I fought. That's all in the past. But tonight I want to fight for you, okay?" After speaking, Tongning grabbed onto Mo Ting's sleeve. Mo Ting tilted his head and looked at her slender right hand. He suddenly laughed. "Can I say no? But if I lose? Then, I can only accept it on behalf of your wife and lose to Kuan Yi on your behalf." Tongning couldn't help but laugh. "Just trust me this once." Mo Ting had never doubted Tongning. She had never been the type of woman to hide behind a man. Above all, he remembered what Tongning had said to him previously. Apart from living habits, their interests and hobbies were still a blank slate. He could accurately tell Tongning's shoe size, her 3 measurements, her favorite food and even the color of her clothes. But as for everything else, he was looking forward to finding out more. In the end, Mo Ting replied, "I can only trust you because I'm not good at Texas." "I don't believe you." Mo Ting's lips curved upwards as he revealed a charming smile. He then led Tongning into the clubhouse. At the gambling table, Kuan Yi was already in position. After all, gambling was something he was good at. So he couldn't help but be excited. That's right, he came here with the intention to bully Mo Ting. He thought he was the king at the table. He couldn't beat Mo Ting in a fight, but he could definitely beat him in a game. Afterwards, Tongning sat down on a chair. However, Mo Ting quickly pulled her up. Tongning was confused. Mo Ting first sat down on a chair, and then moved her between his legs. This position. Although this was a common occurrence at home, Tongning still felt a little uncomfortable in a situation like this. Mo Ting wrapped his arms around Tongning and reminded her, "It's about to start. Why are you being so affectionate when playing cards? Are you afraid that you won't be able to hug me if you lose? I'll say this first, we'll decide the winner in 1 round." Kuan Yi sneered before instructing the dealer to start handing out the cards. Anyone who knew how to play Texas knew that a player had 2 trump cards and 5 public cards. In the end, they had to choose 5 cards to combine and compete against the opponent. A straight flush was naturally the biggest, followed by 4 heavenly legs, followed by a full house, and so on. Of course, Kuan Yi had seen his fair share of women playing cards, but he had never seen a woman win. This little model seemed to have an exaggerated opinion of her abilities. Afterwards, the dealer began to distribute the cards. Out of the 2 cards, Tongning had an ace of spades and a jack of hearts. In Kuan Ye's hand was a pair of tens. Of course, his trump cards weren't good, but they weren't bad either. Since the stakes were people, it didn't matter if he agreed or not. Kuan Yi directly asked the dealer to give out 3 public cards. This time, the commons had a king of spades, a 3 of diamonds and a 10 of hearts. From the looks of it, Tongning had a high chance of getting a straight, while Kuan Yi already had 3. Of course, on the table of cards, apart from luck, there were many other factors. For example, psychological tactics. Kuan Yi had always been known for his luck on the table of cards. So, what about against Tongning this time? Although Mo Ting was carrying Tongning, he did not say a word to her from start to finish. He simply watched quietly. Tongning was indeed familiar with Texas, so he thought of another possibility. Tongning must have played with Han Yufan in the past. Thinking of this, he felt a little jealous. But, thinking about how Tongning said she was going to fight for him, he let go of his jealousy. Not long after, the 4th public card was dealt. This time it was another ace of hearts. Kuan Yi maintained his advantage, but overall, Tongning was slightly behind. She only had a pair of aces, and if the last card didn't have a queen, she would lose. This time, Kuan Yi did not continue. He simply held his chin and asked Tongning, "What do you think? Do you want to fold? Let me warn you, it's almost time for the last card." Mo Ting wrapped his arm around Tongning's neck and whispered in her ear, "Let me see the last card. In that case, if I win, is it your luck or mine?" "Yours," Mo Ting replied. Tongning nodded her head. She couldn't be bothered to listen to Kuan Ye's nonsense as she asked the dealer to deal the cards. In the end, the 5th public card was dealt. However, it didn't have much of an effect on either side. Tongning suddenly felt a little nervous. It was almost time to reveal her trump card. From the looks of it, she had a high chance of winning, but, without any suspense, Kuan Yi revealed his trump card. It was 3 tens. Tongning turned her head and glanced at Mo Ting, but Mo Ting gestured for her to stay put. "Reveal your card. I'm going to trust my luck today." Tongning only had a pair of aces, so she was obviously going to lose. But she did not say a word. "Since you've lost, you should admit it. President Mo, you can afford to play, right?" Seeing the 2 men's reactions, Kuan Yi was certain that they had lost. So he couldn't help but clap for himself. "It seems, I'll be able to enjoy being a little model tonight. What a shame." Mo Ting squeezed out 3 words from his chest before he revealed his trump card. It was actually Q and J. No one knew better than Tongning what her trump card was. At the same time, she also understood why the aces turned into QS. A straight is bigger than 3. We win. Kuan Yi looked at the straight in front of the 2 men in disbelief. His expression did not look too good. In the end, he fell back into his chair and slammed his fist on the table. "President Kuan, I hope you remember your promise. Remember to say that I'm a jerk and that I can't win." Kuan Yi lifted his chair and left the clubhouse with Father Kuan. Afterwards, he heard the dealer say to Mo Ting, "This Xiao Kuan is an old hand at cheating." "I know," Mo Ting replied. "What about you?" Tongning turned around and glared at Mo Ting. President Mo simply wanted to teach the jerk a lesson. If President Mo really wanted to win, he could have used any card he wanted. "Do you guys know each other?" Tongning asked as she pointed to the dealer. "When I first took over Hairue, I was always met with all sorts of business partners. Previously, I was cheated of a lot of money, so I decided to learn. I don't really use it, I only use it to protect myself," Mo Ting explained. "I bet you've never known what it means to be controlled by someone else. I even said I would fight for you. But," Tongning sighed. If Mo Ting's logic was to learn everything he didn't know, then how many skills did he have? Even if you didn't cheat, your cards are better than Kuan Ye's, so you win. Chapter 278. All of a sudden, Tongning had a feeling that she had yet to truly witness Mo Ting's power. Mo Ting noticed she was deep in thought and was about to say something, but at this time, Second Master Mo entered the lounge and said sleepily, "You won pretty quickly." Mo Ting turned around and looked at Second Master Mo before leading Tongning over to him. "This is second uncle. I didn't introduce him properly just now." Before Tongning could say anything, Second Master Mo pulled Mo Ting to one side and asked, "Are you serious? You only found a small-time model? Have you spoken to your parents first?" Mo Ting turned around and looked at Tongning as he replied, "What, does second uncle think it's not a good idea?" "Of course it's good. This girl looks decent and I quite like her. But what about your parents? When do you plan to tell them?" "Please keep it a secret, second uncle. It's not the right time yet," Mo Ting replied with a deeper meaning. "You are just like your father, always trying to be mysterious. I don't care about the two of you." Second Master Mo waved his hand disapprovingly. Second Master Mo waved his hands disapprovingly. "It's just a pity that the banquet was supposed to be a reconciliation. In the end, the enmity between us got worse. You should have shown some mercy, ah. After this mess, will I still be able to see Old Man Quan? Doesn't second uncle enjoy this process? It's good that you know. If I say it out loud, then it's pointless." After speaking, Second Master Mo turned around and looked at Tongning. "Why don't you have dinner with your niece-in-law before you leave? I just want to ask, how many people have found out about this? Grandfather knows I'm married, but he doesn't know who my partner is." "Married?" Second Master Mo covered his mouth. "I thought you guys were just getting along." Mo Ting raised his left hand with a wedding ring on it, and let out a gentle laugh. "It's already been 4 months. In that case, this dinner is even more important." Mo Ting nodded his head and returned to Tongning's side. "Second uncle wants to have dinner with us. Do you want to go? Do you even need to ask? Let's go." After the three left the clubhouse, they arrived at a quiet hotel nearby. From start to finish, Second Master Mo watched Mo Ting protect his wife and found it a little funny. "Good lad, you are becoming more and more like your second uncle when I was young. When you marry a wife, you need to dote on her." "I never dared to forget," Mo Ting replied. "You're already 32 years old. When I was 32 years old, my second brother was already old enough to buy soy sauce. When do you plan to have one?" "There's no rush," Mo Ting replied. Tongning watched as the uncle and nephew interacted with each other. She wasn't sure if it was because of their genes, but she felt Second Master Mo was especially close to him. She felt the Mo family were extremely cute. Seeing Mo Ting's work was not going well, Second Master Mo turned to Tongning and said, "Niece's wife, don't let this rascal control you too much. Don't listen to everything he says. This guy has always been good at conning people since he was young. At home, my wife has always been the one who calls the shots." Mo Ting placed his arm on Tongning's chair and raised his eyebrows. "It better be." Tongning felt a little warm, so she removed her jacket and revealed the embroidered qipao she was wearing. This time, Mo Ting and Second Master Mo were both stunned. Mo Ting even leaned in and asked gently, "Why are you wearing something so sexy? Who are you wearing it for?" Second Master Mo cleared his throat and laughed. "Xiao Ning sure knows how to please the elders. But it's very useful. When I see you dressed like this, I'm reminded of your auntie's beauty. No matter what, I wish the two of you the best. It seems I don't need to worry about you getting along with the Mo family," Mo Ting whispered beside Tongning's ear after dinner. "But a child?" In the past, she had never considered this issue because she thought they had only been married for a short period of time. But now that Second Master Mo mentioned it, it turned out Mo Ting was already 32 years old. 32 years old. It was indeed time for him to have a child. But if she were to have a child at this time, then she would need to start her newly established career all over again. "If you want to have a child, then we can talk about it. I'm not in a rush." "But am I so old that I have to have a child?" In the entertainment industry, there are plenty of people that only have children when they are 40. On the way home, Tongning couldn't help but lower her head in thought. Was she against having a child? Actually, she wasn't. In the past, she was determined to return to the top of the modeling industry because she wanted to get revenge on Han Yufan and Mo Euro. Afterwards, she changed her mind because she wanted to be a match for Mo Ting. Now, to her, a woman needed to have her own independent career. But she also wanted a baby like Mo Ting. By the time you are 40, I will be 33. Tongning reminded Mo Ting. In that case, let's start a little earlier. Older mothers are in danger. You know about this. Mo Ting continued driving. Under the flashing neon lights, he turned his head to look at Tongning and replied. After marrying you, I began to understand everything. Married life is also a part of my education. I really regret not meeting you earlier. If you had met me earlier, I'm sure we would have been on and off again. Wifey, I was also young once and I had a bad temper and liked to fight. Okay, I'd like to see it for myself. Early the next morning, Quan Yi posted on his personal blog about his punishment for losing the bet. He admitted that he was a jerk and that he couldn't do it. Most of the media knew that Quan Yi had been beaten by Mo Ting. In an instant, Quan Yi became the laughingstock of the industry. It was said that not only did he forfeit in a boxing match, he also cheated and never won against Mo Ting at the gambling table. Of course, this was all rumor. Even so, it proved one thing. No matter what Star King did, they couldn't escape from Hai Rui's grasp. If you want to blame someone, blame Quan Yi for his cheap mouth. I can't believe he got slapped in the face so quickly. President Mo sure is a man of action. How dare he say President Mo is gay? I think he's the one that does it himself. His body is the perfect size for a model. Haha, even if he isn't gay, not only is he crazy for fooling around with a few women at once, he's also a virgin. If it wasn't for the support of Star King, he would have thought he could become a celebrity. I don't care what you guys say. Either way, I want to show my respect to President Mo. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but Tongning is in all the photos that the media have released. But she is so quiet like a painting. It's like she's following her husband's tune. If only they could come out and admit to it once. It's so tiring for us to keep guessing. Just as everyone was watching, a comment suddenly appeared in the comments section. For someone like Tongning to ride on 10,000 men, it's only a matter of time before she gets abandoned. Just wait and see. Who are you? Are you crazy? You can't stand seeing others doing well. Tongning has at least 3 men. Let's wait for the evidence to be revealed. Chapter 279. If you have the ability, show us some evidence. The man couldn't help but post a photo. It was the photo of Tongning and Mo Ting kissing in the manner. In the photo, Tongning's face wasn't in high definition, but her facial features were still recognizable. As for the man, his back was against the wall and he was in the middle of a car, so it was impossible to see who he was. Most importantly, in this photo, Tongning was indeed kissing a man. Let's wait and see. There are more explosive things to come. Expose it, hurry up and expose it. Oh God, is this really Tongning? Are there any experts who can dig out any useful information? Hurry and save it. Don't let Hai Rui's PR get rid of it. However, the man did not respond. He simply left behind a suspicious photo before disappearing. Originally, this incident was only known by a small group of people, but it didn't take long before news of it spread to fans. Afterwards, it slowly climbed to the top of the search rankings. Tongning, hurry and take a look at this. What is this? As soon as Long Jie saw the photo, she immediately sat down on the sofa and approached Tongning. When did this happen? Were you and President Mo in the photo? Tongning tilted her head and glanced at the photo before replying with certainty. Earlier. When we were at the manor. The angle of the photo must be a bit difficult. Long Jie looked left and right. President Mo's manor is extremely secretive. It's impossible for anyone to get in. So where did this photo come from? Were you being followed by the paparazzi? Tongning shook her head. I'm not sure. That must be the case. The culprit has been hiding it for so long. Does he have a plan? Why did he wait until now to make a move? Hearing this, Tongning shook her head again. I'm not sure either. What do you plan to do then? Fong Yu will naturally handle things like this. Don't worry about it. Help me pack my luggage. We need to go to France again. Tongning didn't care about photos like this. After all, the person in the photo was Mo Ting and not anyone else. If someone tried to slander her because of this, it was only a matter of time before they cleared their name. But, after a short pause, Tongning lifted her head and said to Long Jie, "Use your little channels to find out where this information came from." "I know. It seems, the people on the outside haven't done enough. Or perhaps, they haven't been taught a lesson by President Mo yet. If we pay too much attention to this matter, then the other party will win. Why waste time?" 10 o'clock in the morning, Imperial Star CEO's office. Quan Yi pretended to be serious as he sat at his desk reading through some documents. The pen in his hand simply scribbled a few lines across the document, before quickly closing it up. He looked at Star King's artist's information in boredom. If he had known he would have to pay such a price for losing to Mo Ting, he wouldn't have challenged him. "CEO Quan." "Come in," Quan Yi said to his assistant impatiently. The assistant walked over to Quan Yi with the phone in his hand and handed it to him as if he was presenting a treasure. "President Quan, this is for you to be happy." "What are you happy about?" Quan Yi received the phone from Tongning. A moment later he saw the photo of Tongning kissing the man. "What does this mean?" "Right now, there are rumors going around that Tongning's private life is messy, that she has cheated on a few men and made President Mo of Hairue wear a green hat. Although there were rumors that Tongning had climbed into his bed, there was no solid evidence. Now it has finally been posted," the assistant explained excitedly. "If the rumors are true and Mo Ting is still in an ambiguous relationship with her, President Quan, think about it. Wouldn't the anger in your heart be vented?" "What?" Translator's thoughts. Uni Quan Yi did not say a word. He simply stared at the phone in a daze. "Did you think this would make me happy?" The assistant was stunned as his face turned red. "I said there was something wrong with Mo Ting's sexual orientation. I was the one that caused trouble for Mo Ting. But what does this mean?" Quan Yi threw the phone away. "What kind of solid evidence is this?" "But the rumors are spreading like wildfire. It's normal for people to slander Tongning." Quan Yi threw the phone away and suddenly laughed. "According to Mo Ting's abilities, he will definitely resolve the matter quickly. This time, I am going to make things a little more difficult for him. What does President Quan want to do?" "Pay attention to Tongning's recent schedule. I want to create a chance encounter with her." Quan Yi began to get excited. Since Tongning had already been accused of having a messy life, why not he add a little spice to her life? He really wanted to see Mo Ting's expression. It was going to be interesting. "President Quan, do you want everyone to misunderstand that the person in the photo is you? You're smart. How many years has President Mo been dominating Hairue? I wonder if he can handle this blow." After speaking, Quan Yi suddenly felt the documents in front of him weren't as annoying as before. At the same time, the models that relied on their talent to make a living didn't seem so ugly anymore. But it's not easy to get hold of Tongning's schedule. Go out and think of a way. Contact customs and take note of Tongning's name. As soon as she decides to leave the country, let me know immediately. The assistant knew Quan Yi's decision couldn't be changed. So, even though he looked like he was in a difficult position, he did not refute. He simply bowed to Quan Yi and left the office. He was the one that brought this upon himself. Even though he never expected Quan Yi to use this incident to attack Mo Ting, he simply wanted Quan Yi to be a little happier and help his subordinates progress a little more smoothly. Plus, it wasn't that Quan Yi wasn't capable. He simply preferred the freedom of the world and didn't like the power that every man couldn't live without. Worst of all, he wanted to bring this playful attitude to the agency. After all, Star King still had the old man, so he could continue playing around. By the time Mo Ting found out about this incident, he had just finished a video conference. Fang Yu brought the information to Mo Ting's office. Not only did he pull out the photo and news, he also pulled out the IP address of the person that posted the photo as well as a list of suspects. Mo Ting's eyes darkened as he put down the information. He then placed his fingers on the table and said to Fang Yu, "Follow up on these suspects and investigate them. Find out how they managed to get their hands on the photo." I've already instructed my subordinates to investigate. By the time we receive the results, you and Tongning will already be in France, Fang Yu explained. Let's find out who the culprit is first. Mo Ting picked up the photo again as he thought back to the kiss he shared with Tongning that day because he had to return home early. Who would have thought the paparazzi was so brave? Focus on investigating Huarong's studio. Mo Ting hadn't forgotten that Tongning had told him more than once about being seen by editor Lin. I've never heard of this studio before? Fang Yu tried to recall. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.